Hi, and welcome back to PG Maybe's Red Dwarf review. And with us today, we've got Wendology and Darren. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Hiya.
Hi there.
So, season 11. How did you find it?
A
Not
big
really
improvement.
find it. How did you find it?
Well, a big improvement. A big improvement. I think a real return to form.
Yeah, I think it's actually on it. It's definitely on its up because I'd said about 8 and 9, how it sort of, at the end of 8, it started going down and you had 9, heading down to the bottom of the trough. And then with 10, it was still a bit better, but just still down in the trough. And I think this one, it is definitely on the up. It had problems, but not as much as previous.
Not on the level of the last season, definitely.
It just seems a bit sharper, punchier, smarter again, as it was. You know, you could probably say this is probably the best series since 6.
Yeah,
Yes.
was saying much better. Felt like back to old times.
Yeah. Which it is true. It is a lot better, and it does feel. The only thing I noticed was the endings. First 5, 6 seasons, they were first 5 seasons especially, they were very tight. A beginning, a middle, an end. Whereas this one, I felt as if they were a bit slower getting into it. The middle was really good, and then it just sort of end, and it just boom, as if it'd be like going along a rail track and suddenly hitting a bumper. Boom. And that was the only thing I felt is there was too many times you were writing a story and then it came to the end and it was a very quick end, and that was the only thing I felt with this one. That it's almost like the story was the middle part was the big bit, and the how they got there was slow, but how it ended was quick. The way sometimes I didn't think they could have done it any better, because I know it's silly of me saying I felt it too quick, but thinking on some of the ends, and I'm thinking, well, if they actually tried to end it properly, it would have probably added another 10 minutes to it, which is effectively overrun, and it would have gone into a second episode. So I think they needed to end some of them quickly, but sometimes I felt it was very jarring. There wasn't even a lead up. You knew it was coming to the end. It was just always a case of something happening and then it finished. And I wanted a bit more, but I knew fine well they couldn't do more because of the time frame.
Yeah, I suppose. I think we were just so happy to have that classic Red Dwarf feel back again that I didn't really care that much. I was just enjoying them.
See, that as well. It's the only reason I'm saying that is because obviously I'm looking at it with a more critical eye this time. Because I remember when it was first on, I thought, yeah, back in the red, as it were. And that's how I felt. It was back to the old Red Dwarf. But because I was looking at it a wee bit more critically for review, then I realised that there was certain parts I found funnier, but there was certain parts I found a wee bit jarring. I know it's just one of those, it's a juxtaposition. Still enjoy it, find it funnier in parts on a second or third watch, but other parts you think, oh, it just stopped too suddenly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose, like I said, I really enjoyed most of these. I enjoyed all of them. Obviously, I've got my favorites. But yeah, I think on looking back, yeah, I suppose, there's definitely like a sort of abruptness to the endings of some of them.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of which one it was, but yeah, I can remember thinking, whoa, that's it then. It's just gone right to credits then.
And I think I know what one you're talking about.
I think it was Lister was in the last scene.
Was it not the one they were just basically flying and it just flew off? It was Lister in the last scene. I think it was. Was it Give and Take? It was when Crichton suited up in red.
His midlife crisis.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Aye, crisis. So the last one, the Igmy where is in, and he's just Crichton comes in and says something to him, and it's basically, and it's just sort of finished at that point with they're still flying back towards Red Dwarf. I think that's the one that I found a bit jarring because that was almost too abrupt.
Do you think
there's other ones I felt as if it came to too quick an end, but I couldn't see how they could end it any better.
Do you think that could have been just an editing issue? You know, they just had to fit a certain slot, and there might have been a little bit more material after that, and it just had to cut.
I think so, because as I said, some of the parts I felt the beginnings were a wee bit slower, a wee bit cumbersome. And if they had actually tightened them up a wee bit, they might have had the end that they wanted to. But it might be a case of they didn't have the end and that's how they wanted to finish it, and they just left those slower parts in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the way I was thinking. But we'll go through each of the episodes and we'll see how we go. So, 20K. I read it, but when I'm pronouncing it, I'm thinking, is that 20K? Is that how it's pronounced?
I would say 20K, yeah.
Uh-huh. So, what were your thoughts on the opening episode for season 11?
It felt a lot more like Red Dwarf. I loved the sort of 1950s speakeasy vibe. And I love the fact that they sort of threw in that, you know, science was banned. Very good sort of dig there. Darren, you had some thoughts?
Yes, yeah. It started to make me think too the classic Star Trek episode, City on the Edge of Forever, and also First Contact.
John Collins.
You know, we've got the simulants. You could say are probably the Borg by any other name, and they're time traveling back to change history, and the Red Dwarf. So there was a little bit of that sort of influence there as well.
Yeah, and it's almost like they wanted to use some steampunk stuff.
Yeah.
I loved the two actors. One that played Einstein Dave.
David Stern.
David Stern. Yeah.
He was good. Einstein Bob.
Einstein Bob, that's it. Yeah, he was so funny.
I'm Bob the Bum.
And he's actually in one season of The Detectorists, which is one of our favorite.
I love it, Detectorists.
Oh my God, we absolutely.
I must admit, I always wanted to get a metal detector and try it myself, because along here there's an old Roman ruin, and unfortunately it's been near enough flattened because they did a quarry on it.
No.
Yeah, but you're talking about in the 30s. It was excavated, and they found a Roman lamp, which is up in the Hunterian Museum in Glasgow.
Wow, I bet that went for a pretty penny.
We've got a famous Roman site a few down the road from us in a place called Kylian, so that would be a good place for that.
Yeah, I would love to do it, just even because I'm basically in a small village. Just go up to some of the larger estates even and ask if I could just do a metal detector.
Yeah, that would be so cool, wouldn't it? We loved that series and we love it. We own it.
Yeah,
that's where you do as well.
And I think that's the most recent comedy we've enjoyed. That's it. You know, there's nothing at all.
There you go for Saturday. There's your recommendation.
Yeah. Defo.
But
that's going on the list.
I just love it where they ended it on the Detectorists, basically just panning down under the ground.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite a nice way to end it. So saying that they're a way to continue on the ring, but just look what they missed.
Yeah, and I hope they leave it at that. And I think Mackenzie Crook will. I think he's very, very protective of it.
It looks like they found their gold. They found what they were looking for. Leave it there. Don't make the mistake that only fools and horses made and go back and have them lose it all and just losing the plot in the process.
Cope with that.
Well, the good thing is they never actually gained anything really, so there's not a lot for them to lose. Remember, it was just basically what could have been, I suppose.
Well, they won the house in the auction thanks to her mother.
Yeah,
the wonderful Diana Rigg. There's so many wonderful scenes in that. I'll definitely raise that on Saturday.
We have to talk. Okay, that'll be one for Saturday.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, it just goes to show sidetracks. Because I don't know a lot of people that's actually seen that one. I must admit.
Oh no, it's one of those things that just one last thing about it is that it's like so transportive. When we're stressed or we just want to escape, if we put that on, it is literally like just transporting yourself into this absolutely idyllic, wonderful little village that, you would just love to live in. People just have normal problems. They don't, the rest of the world doesn't really factor into it. It's just a nice, homely sort of show, and the characters are great.
Yeah, and it's just they do things to actually, as hobbies, release basically what we're doing, I suppose, on YouTube. That was theirs.
Yeah.
Detectors rather than metal detector.
Yeah.
Things. But yeah, I must admit, I quite enjoyed it. And I can never remember his name. The wee guy, he played in a great movie called Marvelous.
You mean, oh my God.
Toby Jones?
Toby Jones.
Aye, he played in Marvelous. It was about a guy who was a big football fan and he had learning difficulties. But for some reason, he managed to he ended up as a coxswain in the Oxford Cambridge boat race.
Holy cow!
He created his own football league so he could be the captain, and he had things like Gary Lineker and all these big footballers and referees turning up and stuff like that because nobody would join his team because he wouldn't let them actually be the captain or the striker. So he wanted to be it, but he was involved with some of the big teams. He was the kit man, the ball boy, the mascot. But it was just really good in it. But that's another thing. That's one of my wife's favourites. I must admit, even I enjoy it, even though it's a football one.
Yeah.
But
the other actor that was in Quentica was Kevin Eldon, and I love this sort of thing about the Borg they did, where he played 4 of 27.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see. Initially, I thought they're taking the piss at the Borg because the 7 of 9, the 4 of 27, the 3 of 26, and stuff like that. And initially, when I first saw it, I thought that's just a wee bit ridiculous. But I think they played it a bit better because it wasn't a case of sub-matrix or subjunction unimatrix 0, 1, 0, and all that. It was just a case of 4 of batch 27.
I think it was just a great lighthearted, Mickey take, and it was great. Yes. It was great. Sadako's got some great observations in the chat. It's going by a bit quickly. I'm just trying to catch up with them all.
I see. That's what I had to say because somebody was slagging us because I don't actually read a lot of the chats, and I keep saying it's because I can either do one or the other. When I talk, I can't concentrate, and if I concentrate, I can't talk.
I know. I know the feeling.
Yeah, I need to go all the way back up. It's basically has Sadako. Thank you. Right, what's that? Right. See, I'll look through them as we're talking. So,
lovely.
20k. See the same again. Cat was a seam stealer in this.
As always.
We are looking for a rumour. That's him. Oh, they broke me. They broke me. I believe you actually in control of a listener. That's him. And they broke me again. I just thought, just typical Cat. I think Cat got a couple. See, last season, I think one of the first seasons, was it this season or was it last season? It was cat centric.
Yes.
No, it's actually this
no.
season. Can of Worms was the first cat centric episode.
I was noticing that, because I was thinking to myself, we never really got a good cat episode, which would have been great. Which would have been really a nice, fun episode, because you would have given, Danny a chance to just go completely crazy as he does so well,
Yeah, and they did do it this season, but it's the same again. Even when it's not cat-centric, it still steals the scenes.
Yeah, always.
And just anything that happened to Rimmer, it's a case of, we'll live with that. if it's not you and it's one from an alternate dimension, so if he dies, no harm done. It's a clone of you, so if he dies, no harm done. Or it's you from the future, and the cat says, and if he dies, no harm done.
This is good. Cats are scene stealers, as we saw the other night.
That was good.
Definitely. And they had one of my favourite lines in the whole season in this episode.
Go on.
Crichton couldn't be more fried if he was a Mars bar living in Scotland.
Yeah.
And I was noting myself, there you go. There's the line from the, especially because there was I think I was on a stream, they were all talking about food. And I mean, Mars bars, deep fried Mars bars and deep fried ice cream.
Not just the Scottish thing, no, because there were chip shops down here doing it at one time.
Yep. It's because well, it's the same idea. You think about it. Even Indian food. There's certain Indian food that have got British or Scottish roots. Like, for instance, is it tikka masala?
Yeah.
It basically was London. I think it started there. And it was because they couldn't get the imports of certain things, so they started using tins of tomatoes.
Yeah.
And that's where the tikka masala basically grew up from. But it's the same as pakora. A lot of places you can't get pakora. It started up in Scotland because it was the same idea, deep fried.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
And it spread from that. But you can't say it's a Scottish dish or an English dish. It's an Indian dish with just a more unusual regional variant, which I must admit I do like both. Although I prefer a haggis pakora.
Oh dear me. No, yeah, I don't know. You'd have to get me extraordinarily drunk to try haggis. But
haggis
you're welcome to try.
I love haggis. If you get a good haggis, it's nice. Sometimes you get haggis that's too dry. You need to get a nice moist haggis. If it's cooked properly, it is delicious. But then again, it's the same as anything. I've had some things that I thought, ugh, but I've tried it again and it's been cooked properly and it was delicious. I hate prawns, but there was one time I had ordered at a wedding and a king prawn. It was a prawn cocktail, and I thought, but trying to be nice, at least I tried it.
Yeah,
and I scoffed a lot because it was one of the nicest ones I'd ever tasted. Wow. But I still don't like prawns, but I still remember one, it was really nice. But I'll still try a prawn because I know it could be nice. Now, some people say I don't like that, so they'll never try it. If I don't like it because I've tried it and I've never found one I've liked, I'll not eat it. But if I've tried one in the past and I've liked, and other ones I haven't, I'll always try, even if I don't eat it.
Yeah, I'm kind of adventurous when it comes to food, up to a point. I did try blood pudding because we stayed in the north of England. Back in '96, one of my workmates and I went on a sort of Thelma and Louise holiday together. You know, we had it, and we were staying in a B&B, and they just made us this absolutely gorgeous fry-up breakfast. It was so gorgeous. And they had blood pudding on the plate and all that. And both my friend and I were looking at each other like, oh my God, if we don't eat this, they're going to be offended, you know? So I wouldn't go back to blood pudding, but I did try it.
See, when you're saying blood pudding, is that what we call black pudding?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
The same thing,
See, black pudding, I can take or leave, I must admit.
Yeah.
I'm not keen on it, but it depends. It's the same idea. I have tried it a couple of times, then I could have sat in that restaurant, in that cafe, and eaten it. Yeah, most of the time I don't like it. But it's the same idea with white pudding. I'm not keen on that either. But I like fruit pudding. Yum.
Yeah.
I could eat fried fruit pudding till it comes out my ear.
I like custard fried.
See again?
If it's fried, I'll usually have a go. I just won't.
Same idea. I've seen a comedian. He was talking about Scottish food, and it's a case of they'll fry anything. Bring out your dead, we'll fry them. And it's basically, but it's. I'm actually starting to get hungry, but yeah, I think that was definitely the line of the season for me, and it was in the first episode, but not even halfway in, and I just thought, I can't imagine a line that is going to tickle me more than the more fried if he was a Mars bar living in Scotland. I thought, superb. But definitely that was a line for the season for me, that one. Considering it's actually coming back to form, there was a lot of good one-liners in this.
Very much so.
Yeah. And I loved the whole premise of it. I loved the speakeasy. I loved the Big Bang Barrel.
Yeah.
I don't do that. You want a Big Bang? It's barrels.
Yeah. I like when the police raided, everything turned over the
thing we
turned everything over. They hit it, the flasks went over and everything.
They forgot about Einstein Bob with the device.
Yeah, see, there was glitches with that because right at the very beginning when they were walking down the street and the police ran right by them to raid the ones with the toasters.
Mm-hmm.
They ran right by a robot.
Yeah.
Right, fair enough. Rimmer, they could understand because they wouldn't know because he looked human. He had an H on his head. But they ran right by Crichton.
Yeah, slightly convenient.
Yes.
That driver there.
They made me so focused on.
Yeah, we can forgive them for that.
Yeah. And it was dark, I suppose. So, but I think the guys actually enjoyed the dress up aspect of this one.
Yeah,
because it reminded me of the. Was it Better Than Life? No, the Better Than Life. The VR game that he kept getting into to have his end away with the girl in the taxi.
Yeah.
And then Crichton had to go in. It was that. It just reminded me of that because obviously it was the 20s and the machine pieces and stuff like that. I think that's. I do like my hat, so it's the idea of just dressing up like that, pure style.
Yeah, the hats were awesome. Yeah, I love hats.
Yeah. Again, going back to the Star Trek episode, you could, because we watched that recently, and you could tell that both William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, they sort of enjoyed getting into that sort of style.
Yeah, well, they did it in another one. They did it in another one where it was about a planet that had intercepted radio waves, and it was all the gangster movies. So that's how they'd built their thingy. So they went down and they were the Tommy guns and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the one.
That was another good one. So, but then again, I need to watch the original Star Trek again. I've not watched it for a wee while.
We're going through it now.
Which is something else we could talk about on Saturday because we've been watching the box set. So
yeah.
I must admit, I've not watched it for it must have been about a year since the last time I watched it. And it's the same idea, but I ended up in Voyager because I usually do a couple of episodes here and there. If I've got an hour or something like that, I'll put something on. The last time it was Voyager, and I ended up getting stuck, and I watched every season, every episode. That's why I need to watch what I'm doing, because if I get stuck on something, then everything else goes in the wayside, and I just watch it one episode after the other, right from beginning to end. So I'm because I'm actually being good, I need to watch what I'm watching, if you know what I mean. But I did like the speakeasy aspect of this.
Yes.
And Harmony de Gautier, she was good. She basically, I think she got some of the worst lines, the type of lines that normally Crichton gets, the speeches, when she was delivering what they did or what she could do for them. The dressing in tweed and all that, the whole spiel. God knows how many times she had to repeat that one because of the technicalities in it. Lucy, is it Pool? Paul? I can't remember how it's pronounced. It's Pohl. So I don't know if it's still pronounced Pool. If it's a Polish part, I don't know. I think it's Lucy Pohl, Pohl. So I don't know how the pronunciation of that. I would have pronounced it as Pool. But
so we've got
the corporeal life form definitely needs to watch Red Dwarf.
Yay!
Yes. This is one that I thought it was a quick ending, but I couldn't, because if I thought if the ending went any further, because they just basically, initially I thought it was just going to end as they're flying through the tunnel going home, and then it was just basically we need to watch because if we get too dependent on simulants, and Crichton's going jacket, shoe, socky, other socky, and all.
Yes.
And to me, that part, I thought it was going to end at that point, but because that part is tacked on, to me, that's the type of thing you would normally get. It would end. There would be the theme, and then it would be the last 2 minutes before it fades out after the end titles. And that's what I thought. I wonder if they'd actually planned a lot of these to have after the end titles, but they were told no and had to bring it in. So because it was just too quick, so you had the bit I thought was an end, and then it sort of had a wee bit, and then it finished. And I thought, I wonder if they were planning to have an end title, and that's what that bit was sort of faded out.
Yeah.
But because that's what I felt, as if it was coming to an end, and then there's a wee bit tacked on, and it did that in a couple of them. And this was the first one I noticed on. And that's when I started wondering. I wonder if it's they were planning that, because a lot of programs had that at roughly about the time. They always had something at the end just to make people sit and watch the titles, because you know what it's like. Once it's finished, how many people actually sit and read everybody that was on it? Everybody who was the key grip, who did the music. Very few people do that, but if they've got something at the end, people sit to the end. That's why they started doing it in movies at the cinema, because they knew that was the only way to get people to stay in to see all the credits, was have something at the end of movies. So that's what I think they were planning to do, but it didn't turn up that way.
Yeah, so awesome.
But how did you think it as a season opener it fared?
I thought it was an excellent season opener.
Did the job.
I think it was actually a very strong one, and I was trying to think of any of the other ones that could have been as good as a season opener, and there was a couple of really good episodes in this one, but I think none of them had that strong intro to the cast, because you know it's like every season seems to be an episode which sort of highlights each of the cast even if it's only for a couple of minutes throughout it, just to reintroduce them, their mannerisms, their personality, just in case somebody started watching it. And I thought this was one of the ones that actually did sort of establish what each of the characters do.
Mm-hmm.
And even the part with the nipple nuts and the jump leads. And even talking away as he's walking up and down.
Yeah, Crichton jumps down the star.
There's so many great gags in Crichton. There's so many fantastic. So
because you get the cat constantly. He did. That's him there. That's him. So it basically introduced him as basically he's just very. As long as I'm no pointing at me, I'll point to everybody else. You got Rimmer. We don't negotiate with it. Oh well, we might actually. Yes, I think we should because it's him that's involved. You've got Lister. I'll handle it. Listen, just enough. Give me a notepad. I'll give you a notepad, Darren, but you'll need to give me something. You've been watching the TV. It's not as simple as that because I have to go to my boss, who has to go to his boss, who has to go to the DA. It's just it sort of introduced him. It's just in the. It's almost yep. He'll say what he needs to say to get it done, but the. Sadako actually brought up one of the funnier lines and funny, clever lines.
Yeah.
How dumb do you think I am? You want me to answer that? Just divide your mass by your body.
Yeah.
I loved that line. And it's the same again. It was a clever humour. It showed
the writing was just so much better.
Yeah. Because you look at a lot of the stuff in Red Dwarf, you can't deny, is silly humour. Is just laugh out loud. You don't need to think humour. Then you've got lines like that. It shows that some decent thought have been getting into.
It's actually coming from a much more intelligent place than people give it credit for.
And it's not how dumb, it's how dense do you think I am? I just realised that when it was talking about your divide, it was dense because I was saying they had to actually say they must have had to been a scientist or have read up. I look at all these different insults and a science explanation for it. So they might have gone down and say, "How dumb do you think I am?" Well, dumb's not really. How dense? Dense is a good one. So how dense? And it's still an insult, but it's got a.
You wouldn't have even remembered that line. So well done to Sadako for remembering it. I didn't catch the sort of wordplay with that one, so that was good.
It was a case of how dense do you think I am? Divide your volume by your mass, and I thought that was extremely clever. But it's the same again. I thought they've actually spoken to scientists who have given them their. That's a science joke. Now, you get ones that somebody will tell you because of the profession they're in that they'll say to their friends or who are in the same profession, and you get a chuckle out of it because it's got two meanings. And I think that's what they've done. Somebody's told them that joke, or else they've been looking for something there and they've had to look up so they had a meaning what it was. But I think it's a typical dad joke. It's like me. I used to make headstones in the past. And I used to use the old jokes. It was quite successful because it was a dead centre of Glasgow. It's not very successful because it's a dying business.
Yes.
The old jokes that other people just go, but anybody in the profession about what we did, it was a chuckle because it had the two meanings. It's a dying business is successful, or it's dying business because it's gone down the drain. But so I thought that's where they've got the joke from. Either one of their friends or somebody said it to them, and they thought, "Oh, that's a good joke," and then write a scientific thing round it. And that was the part with the negotiator. Was it's my boss goes to his boss, goes to the DA. I thought it was quite a clever way of doing that. But this episode on the whole, I thought was one of the better ones for a season start.
Definitely.
Because it did give each of the characters a role to play. Even like when they're up on the stage, what happened to your head? Remember you went up to crying? What happened to your face? And what was it? Was it a dunking for apples in a cement mixer?
Oh yeah. That's what I love about Red Dwarf. Some of the lines and the jokes are great.
Yep.
So like simple, but that's what makes them so funny.
Yeah, and even the fact that then they went to the cat. You're a scientist, and then he does a bit of tap dancing, and then they don't go to Lister or Rimmer, but Lister's standing there and he takes a drink, and then as he drinks, he realizes he's got a test tube and he doesn't know it. He goes,
yeah.
But I thought another thing is, I thought they were actually going to do. See, when the policeman says they've got a whatever tube, a beaker, something beaker. I can't remember the name of it.
He names it.
He names it.
Aramaya flask, something like that.
And I thought, are they going to actually pull them up? Then obviously it was about a ambulance. I thought it was going to catch. They were going to get caught, and then they were going to turn it back in him so they could help. They could make him help them, but it would have probably been too long of a plot for a half an hour.
Yeah, they have to sort of make it all fit in that little.
Yeah, but I thought they were going to highlight the fact as you know that fact as well, so you know what it's called.
Yeah,
but they didn't. So I thought it was a wee bit something that slipped past. But there you go. So episode 1, definitely a good one.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's an 8 out of 10 at least for me.
Oh, definitely. I think so as well. Even just for some of the lines, even some of the names. Bob the Bum, Big Bang Barrel. I just loved some of the play on words. The Big Bang. I don't do the Big Bang. No. That's Beryl's department and stuff like that. Yeah. Even all the stuff they were doing, I thought it's definitely extremely clever and funny. Yes. So yes, definitely an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it's good bit of alliteration. I like that. So yeah, wordplay.
Definitely. And then we go on to Samara.
Samsara.
Samara. Where did I get Samara?
Yes.
Samsara. Which I think is probably one of the ones that had some major plot holes in.
Yeah.
Although funny, even though it's got a Scottish girl in it, but it had some bits that made zero sense to me. I know it sounds silly, but it made zero sense. It's Red Dwarf. It's not meant to make sense. But they'd said it's so close together that it's sort of, doesn't work. I've heard people saying things like the skeleton sitting up and stuff like that. That wouldn't happen because 3 million years.
Yeah, they would have just dropped to the floor.
But that's just...
That's I think, kind of an acceptable amount of sort of like a gag, everybody loves a sort of skeleton gag, it sort of works.
Yeah, no bones about it. Sorry. I'll get me coat.
Get your coat.
I've kept that one in the closet. But even the skeleton gag worked, but it was this gag when they were introducing them to Lister and Rimmer. When they brought them back to Red Dwarf because they'd lost communication with the life pod.
Okay.
And they turn around and it's dust. He explains that they were flash frozen by the computer because they tried to help. So at the end, they explained what happened to them. They were flash frozen because they tried to be helpful. So they left. So they were being selfish, so they were saved. But as soon as the communications opened and they tried to warn them, they got flash frozen or flash burnt or whatever it was.
Yeah.
However, they said that's exactly what happened to the people on the Samsara, and they were all skeletons. So the same thing happens, but two different occurrences. Yeah. It would have been. It was funnier with the dust. It almost like the Dead Dave. It reminded me of that. What this is, the Dead Dave. That's what it reminded me of. But that whole setup, just for we should scatter the ashes and go and find the Samsara. Achoo!
Yeah, you knew that was coming, but it was so Red Dwarf. That was so good.
It was, and it set it up so well that you didn't care. You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And that's what Red Dwarf, that's the great thing about it. It's just the gags are just so bad they're good, and they make it work.
Yep. And Sadaka says they had having a luck of late finding surviving human, and when they do, it's usually having to go back in time. And I was surprised that they always get all these time jump machines of description, one or another, but they never use it to go back to Earth.
Yeah, that always sort of underdoes, sort of undermines it a little bit. But and then the times when they have got a time machine, they're talking about trying to get back to Earth. They realise that it's a time machine, not a time and space machine. Yeah. So they can go back in time, but not travel. Then they forget about it and travel time and space. And
well, that's it. See, they forgot the relative dimensions,
Yeah. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe just the doctors actually barred them from doing it. They do it once and that's it.
It could be. It could be that the Time Lords are not having any of that nonsense.
Yep. Well, after all, there's currently there's a TARDIS actually on the Red Dwarf.
No way.
And the outside, accordingly, see in one of the wee, especially in the early ones before it was a CGI Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
It's accordingly as it's panning. There's a Crichton hand, so just a hand in the corner painted red to match in, and accordingly there's a TARDIS in one of the corners, just a small TARDIS sitting in the corner.
Oh, I love it.
I've never came across it. I've just heard that it's there. It's been online. It is there, but I've never seen it. And I've paused and thingy, but it's the graininess of.
Yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it?
Yeah, it's made.
If you do it in a small enough that you get really high definition, you can't see it because it's too small. If you put it in a big screen, so you can see it, it's never got the quality to actually tie it down. But accordingly, people have said it's there. There's a TARDIS on the door.
A little Easter egg.
Mm-hmm. One of these days, I will find it, but
we shall have to have a look. Speaking of CGI, is it either the CGI is better, or did they go back to some more model shots for this? Because some shots of the ship I thought looked better, say, than the Series 8 shots.
I think I don't know if they actually just the technology had moved on and they got better CGI, but I think they did use a couple of models because obviously, yet again, the Starbug crashed again.
Yeah,
a couple of times this one, and it always managed to get back up and go. So I think the model shots are for that, but I think what the simulant ship in Twentica, I think that was a model. It didn't look CGI, whereas the one for the universe was definitely CGI. I think you can tell the difference because see if it's the very crisp CGI, see if it actually looks a bit grainier. I think they're models.
Yeah,
because you can see the difference. If you watch those times when Red Dwarf are going by, or you see the universes, the ship at the universe, they look too crisp, whereas other ones just look older, so they do look like model.
There was a nice shot in one episode where it was sort of silhouetted against looked like three different suns. I thought that was quite well done.
See, they could still use CGI for certain parts of it, but I think you can usually tell the difference.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what that one's for.
Sure.
Yeah. But Samsara, the Scottish girl Maggie Service played Baker.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one I thought she reminded me of. Have you seen Hyperdrive? Miranda Hart is in Hyperdrive.
Okay.
And she reminded me of Miranda Hart in Hyperdrive for some reason. She did remind me of Amanda Hart. I think it's just the way she came in initially. It was almost she somebody who's capable but try to hide the fact. It's almost like try to hide an aspect of her character. And then I think in Hyperdrive, Amanda Hart's, because she's the first officer, she doesn't want to outshine the captain. She's always seems to be walking like that, as if she's trying to make herself look smaller. And I think that's what reminded me of it. The part she's pretending she doesn't know Green.
I can see her IMDb credits actually do say London Road, Red Dwarf, and Hyperdrive.
Oh, there you go.
Maggie Service.
Yes.
So Hyperdrive is a weird one. It's a weird duck, I must admit. I love it, but I know why people don't like it.
Know, I'd actually forgotten all about that until you mentioned it just now. But yeah, I don't think I saw much of that in this time. But
yeah, bringing
now you mention it, I thought, yeah, I can remember when that was on.
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember actually what part she played in it, I must admit, but she just reminded me of Amanda Hart in it, and that is basically because
Miranda Hart is also in it. Yeah,
she plays the first officer in it, so she
Nick
does.
Frost
and Nick Frost,
he plays the captain. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. It's described as the motley crew is a bunch of good-for-nothing led by the equally useless but well-meaning Commander Henderson.
Yes.
Bringing
Britain to the universe.
What does that remind us of?
I think it's something like bringing Britain out to the universe, but it is a weird duck of a sci-fi comedy because the outfits are very 1950s in some of them.
What was it? Was it a bit confused about what it was trying to do?
No, I think it's just a case of they didn't want. They obviously it was a comedy, bringing the Britishness into the universe or something like that. So they were working. They worked for the British Navy in space, obviously. So you still had all the different countries had their own naval fleet in space.
Could that have been the BBC? They no longer had Red Dwarf, and they were trying to sort of.
It could have been
do something like it, but not quite. Oh, sorry.
It is only like it because it was a sci-fi comedy.
Yeah.
They had bits and pieces like the girl who played the android, who was the main computer bit. She was hilarious. I think she was the funniest one on it because she would actually. It's almost like she had Tourette's. But so giggle bum and stuff like that. She was doing all these bits for trying to, because when she's directing the ship, she's doing it all as if she's doing it in she's the ship, and it's just silly. But I think it's just silly. It's weird, silly out there. So it is.
I may have to go back and.
It's definitely worth having a look, I think, just to get a sense of it.
Some fairly big names in it. Well, some fairly recognisable British actors in it.
Oh, yeah.
So they have. And I must admit, I know a lot of people dislike it because of the quirkiness. I liked it because of the quirkiness. Because like there's one planet and they're all wearing, it's like inflatable outfits they're all wearing, and it just looks ridiculous. But I just found it's just funny, ridiculous, and it was designed to be funny, and that's what it was. It was one of those type of humour. It was a lot of visual. Look, we're all stupid dressed in these funny things because we're pretending we're in space. Look, and I think it did it deliberately because it was like the 1950s. Everybody was expected to wear silver outfits and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and I think they did it almost like as something from the 50s updated, so it was all in colour, but they had all these weird and wonderful outfits on. and I did enjoy it. But I know I can be a bit of a weird duck.
It's
yeah. They had some. Did you notice when they're in the bunk room? He still had his battle timetable from last season.
Yeah.
And so he did. From when he told his father was Dongo, the gardener. He still had his battle plan timetable up.
Well, sort of Arnie, the living legend, and things like that.
Yep, he had all those from behind the door. Now he's actually got around his bed. And I'd loved these Monopoly. They used to call me Centaur.
Yes.
Is that because you're a half man full of bull?
Yeah, that was a great one.
That was a good line. But then again, there was some other iconic one-liners in this one. You look at the cat. I'm blind. Is that because I hurt my foot? I've got foot and eye disease. It's just basically foot and eye disease really come on to buggery. It's just hilariously funny. And I think if any of the other ones, it would always be silly. But because it's a cat and the cat's personality, it just fits so well. He could come out with silly lines like that, and they don't seem stupid. They just seem very cat.
Yeah.
But do you notice how they were talking about was it Harmony Drive?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they called it. And then they obviously referred it back to the Justice.
The
Karma Drive. Karma Drive. And they referred it back to Justice World.
Yes. Justice World technology.
Yes. And they said that you used it, but it was easy to manipulate. Very easy to manipulate, apart from anything else. Once they're on the journey, somebody could go in and reprogram it, flick a switch, and suddenly make it the opposite, and not think, oh, I wonder how that's going to. But it just seemed weird as well that the Karma Drive, if you were bad, you were the one that got the things against you. So, like, they got the horrible food because they were having an affair.
Yeah.
They couldn't get a shower in warm water and stuff like that. Yet, when they switched it over, it got that bad that the ship decided to destroy them all. Because why? Because they were all so good. It just seemed to be a bit. It's almost like they went from there to there.
I think this one. Yeah, it kind of. You could kind of get a sense of what it was trying to do, but it didn't quite, hit all the marks. I think it's still.
I think it went a wee bit overkill. Trying to call the latest show in Red Dwarf, so I think it was around somewhere. No, that's a while backwards. You're a wee behind, Jim.
Yeah, seriously, that.
All right, you'll have to actually remedy it. We are already backwards. Was what, season 5?
Oh God, I've already forgotten it.
Season 3 opener.
Season 3 opener. There you go. Aye. So season 3, and we're on season 11, Jim. So you're a way behind. There you go. Aye, Sadako already ahead of us all.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Aye, but I just thought they had a great premise of it, but I think the way they executed it, I think it was the same again. It went from 0 to 100 too quickly because they were trying to explain how they switched it so they could have the affair.
It was kind of a forced, there was points when I was watching it and I was thinking, what? Okay, oh, we've switched it now. Okay, it was like a little janky the way it fell together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's almost like the idea was there, but they just couldn't actually say that. But we need to get them to this point So that means these need to all do this, and it has to be very quickly, and they destroy that. And even when they're in and they find it, and Crichton and you just need to be nicer. Oh, we're in deep trouble, Crichton. All you need to do is be nice to me. We're really, really deep trouble. And I thought it was good because I thought they would have actually just got Crichton would have turned around to him and says, "It's something I've always I've never wanted to say to you, sir, but I think it's adequate. You take the lead." It would have been better because of his personality. He would have been the one that would have been better to take the lead. Yet you still had Crichton still doing punch and still being nice to him by telling him why he's punching him and how sorry he is. But it just didn't. It sort of didn't gel like that. Try to help him by punching him, but he's still helping him, even though he's hitting him. It's almost as if it was to cancel each other out, but it didn't seem to.
Yeah, it was very janky, this one, thinking back. Yeah, it just, again, it's probably my least favorite of this season, I think. I think there was something really, really slightly off with this one, but, again, still better than last season, but yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely we've seen worse, but yeah, not great.
Yeah.
Sort of
it had some good one-liners in it, but it's definitely not one of the better ones of this season.
Yeah, like the ideas are there, but as we said, perhaps it didn't quite, the way they handled it, it didn't sort of quite work out.
Right. Sadako saying he had to admit it was a novel idea to have the derelict ship's dead crew be humanized by flashbacks when they were alive. I thought that was quite good, I must admit. So they basically gave you a bit of a flashback to give you a bit of a backstory instead of Crichton giving all the exposition about what happened here and stuff like that. So at least you sort of understood why it went off. Yeah, I mean, and I think sometimes they give Crichton too much exposition, like in Twentica. He was walking up and down and saying, based on the vibration, there's a city, so many things, and you're sitting there thinking, well, he was out, so how would they know? He was completely out of the game when they came in and crash landed, but he's the one telling them where the town is based on what it said, something to do with seismic. So is it a case of they were feeling the vibrations of it? I just thought it was quite weird that for a change, and one of the ones I didn't think was the best, as good as the rest of the episodes, that they had a good premise of giving you the backstory by having other actors in doing it.
Yeah, I could have taken or left this one, if I'm honest.
I tried to do something different, but didn't quite get there.
That's what I'm saying. It's the fact is they didn't have Crichton giving you all the exposition about what happened because he's read it on a database or he's read the captain's log, so he has to explain it to everybody.
Yeah,
he showed it.
Yeah,
I thought that was good, but the premise was good, but the execution, it just didn't make sense.
Yes.
Suppose it was like Tomorrow's War. A decent enough movie, but if you think about it, it doesn't make sense.
Well, no, exactly. You had to sort of suspend. You had to suspend that and just treat it as good, fun adventure, and it was good for that.
Yeah, that's why I enjoyed it.
It was unfortunately, they say you have to suspend your disbelief, but when you also have to suspend your belief as well as your disbelief, that's when it actually.
Yes.
That's when it actually hit me. I watched it and it's not something I would watch again because it's one of those ones I go, when it comes to time travel, I don't have issues because we love Red Dwarf and there's a lot of Red Dwarf time travel in it. But when it's one that they're trying to be a bit more serious and then they screw it up by changing everything. Because it basically creates a paradox in Tomorrow's War.
Yeah.
don't obviously want to go into it because people might not have seen it, but it does create a paradox, and that's the part that I don't like, because they've effectively ended it on a paradox.
Yeah.
And because of that, the rest of it made zero sense.
Well, there is a sequel coming apparently, so they'll probably pick it up.
I enjoyed it. I thought, again, I just sort of suspended that bit and just sort of, what, it's good action.
Good action ones if you didn't think too much about it. And I must admit, I did enjoy the action sequences. I enjoyed the premise of it, that going into the future to try and save humanity because everybody could fight is gone, and unless they succeed, then the whole human race is gone in 30 years. So the people who are going to die before then, they'll ask them to go into the future to fight because they're not going to be around to fight, and everybody else who could is dead.
That's right, and they had a big Doctor Who type vortex to take them there. So,
yeah. And I would like to have known what caused the fault at the beginning.
Yeah, it just was sort of left.
They basically mentioned it. I want to know what happened, but they never actually told you.
Yeah.
And I wish they had. Was it somebody sabotaged it? Or was it what? Because they don't, you don't know. And that's
that end could have been tied up better.
See, I think it could be a case of the Tomorrow War could be set further in the future. And that was happened because they tried to create a gateway and it interrupted that, and hence the reason why it dropped. Something like that.
Yeah. They definitely could have put more into that element of it.
Yeah. But it's the same idea. It was one that it was entertaining to an extent, and it wasn't a bad movie for entertainment value.
Well, that's what was refreshing. It was just meant to be entertaining. And it was not full of sort of, the dreaded political ideology stuff that we get in so many modern productions. It just said, here it is, here's a straightforward story, have a bit of fun with it, and then it's done.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I'd have, if I'd paid to see that at the cinema, but we had it on Amazon Prime to watch, ready to go, so
and I think
it went.
It's a sign as well that if it's a good enough overall movie to watch, you can forgive an awful lot of things. I mean, you had the great cast and the actors involved. I think were very good as well. So, a little bit corny in places, a little bit sort of predictable sort of character types and things like that.
Why?
But it was funny because if you think of like Starship Troopers, where that intentionally
I love Starship Troopers.
It's brilliant.
That was satirical.
That intentionally is a satire of itself. That works. That just works. And this was sort of like almost there, not quite.
Yeah, but it also, I think, it followed the classic hero's journey story pattern quite well. I was almost there ticking it off. I thought, he's the hero. It's ordinary world, call to adventure. Off he goes. The mentor battle, reaches its conclusion. It was all there. So I think it worked. It's not great. It's not, it's not going to win any big awards, but it was just fun to watch.
Yeah, I do. I did watch it, so I can't really say too much about it. Yesterday's what that was, but and I see Starship Troopers. I've got one, and I've actually even got the animated ones as well, all 5.
Yeah.
See, that's another stream, PJ. You could do just on Starship Troopers.
Aye, there's so much.
There's so much to do.
So much to do. And that's the problem, because I have done a couple of my favourites already, but I did them on my Todd, so I basically just rambled to myself. And I would like other people's opinion of them, because most other people I know have never even heard of some of the ones that I've watched. It's one of those things. But we'll talk about that on Saturday.
Yeah.
because MC had actually suggested, and I thought it was quite a good idea, and then we could expand it a bit. So, yes. So, Samsara, not that great. Some good one-liners in it. The half bull and the foot and eye.
Yeah.
Were humorous Red Dwarf points, but the whole story had a good concept, but didn't execute it very well.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
about right, I think.
The quote that I copied down for that one that I always enjoy, and of course it's Cat, is Lister saying, "Who evolves so they can't see in the dark?"
That's like, because they can't swing through trees.
You'd never be late for anything.
See, that argument couldn't happen today, even though it's the Cat and Lister saying it.
Yeah.
That thing, yeah, it is one of the funniest exchanges between the two, because he is assuming because he's a cat, he can see in the dark. And the Cat's just pointing out the fact is, that's not how it works. But seeing in the dark, how could you not? Who would not want to see in the dark? Who would not want to swing from trees? It's a case of, yeah, who would want to lose the strength from, because if evolution, what we've done is stood upright, but we've actually became weaker.
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
Mm-hmm. Maybe our alien overlords just misdesigned us.
Definitely not intelligent design then.
Yeah. We were designed by somebody from 2021 who went back in time.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I said. I can't remember who I said it to. Intelligent design, people actually say, yeah, you look at the people in 2021, how can you call that intelligent?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so somebody needs to go back to the drawing board and take their T-square off them.
Yeah.
No more stuff for you. You've been smoking that funny stuff.
Control designs.
Oh, one of these days, somebody's going to invent a machine that could actually just tell us all these answers.
Yeah. And it'll be 42.
I was going to get a bit ahead of myself. I was going to say like Holly in one of the books, but that's for a further stream. Me and Sadako are going to go through the 4 books.
Fantastic. Look forward to that.
Great.
I've listened. Actually, I've got them in audio because my reading's terrible nowadays. I'm getting too old. I have to wear pairs of glasses. And I did show my reading glasses the last time, and people actually think I'm joking about that, but I need stronger glasses with a light on them. Getting too old.
Can relate.
Yeah.
So I decided that
we're all in that club now.
So I do audiobooks, and basically it's great because I can sit and potter around, do other bits and pieces. So, and then when I'm driving, I've got them. So I've already listened to 2 of them, and I'm already going back through them again because I don't want to get too far ahead. So I'm going to actually finish this one, and I'm going to go back and do the first one, but I don't need to do that until after season 13.
Good.
So that's when we're going to do it. So that'll give me a week per book to actually go through and do things. So Samsara is a no. Next one is Give and Take, episode 3. This is Captain Bollocks.
Yeah. This one was. I wrote that down. That was one of my favorite moments.
Basically, the fact is, I've cleared some space to free up some memory. Why did you do that? Why didn't you pass it with me first? And you are. Go back into your deleted items and take out the Rimmer folder. Then reinstall it. I don't know who you are, but I will check. Nope, there's no Rimmer folder. There's Captain Bollocks. Would that be you? I thought that whole exchange was superb. Yeah. It was just Rimmer now has pride of place in my database, right next to Ringworm and Rimshot. Although they're not alphabetical order, I noticed.
Yes, somebody pointed that out on IMDb. I noticed it was in there.
I did. I think that's where I saw it. And I was thinking, Rimmer, MMGS. It's in between the two, technically. But it's still right next to them. It's only next. It's only in between. But he didn't say next in between. He just says next to.
Yeah, which means he might have. He's not got everything.
Yeah, he's only got things.
He's only got certain things, and it happens to be between those two. So, that I forgave that a little bit. That didn't really, affect me too much.
Mm-hmm. So, what did you think of this one?
I enjoyed this one. Really I think this felt more like Red Dwarf, running around pushing Lister on a gurney, and and him trying to sort of trick Kat into not being so selfish. And it definitely, especially after the Samsara one, it definitely felt a lot more like Red Dwarf again.
It did, but except the one big enormous plot hole.
Go on.
Did you not notice it?
At the moment, I've got the memory of a small fruit fly. So you're going to have to help me out.
The big plot hole. Why did they go back in time? They went back in time to take the kidneys out of the earlier version of Lister.
Yeah.
They put the shunt in them. So the later version of Lister, had them taken out and destroyed, could get them back.
Yes, I remember saying that. When we watched it,
How could whatever his name was, Asclepius, have removed them?
Yeah, so I was saying to Darren, how would that work then? He's gone back in time, taken his own kidney, but wouldn't he then only have had one kidney to give?
No, he's taken both his kidneys.
Yes,
and then he gave him a blocker so it would only last until Asclepius actually operated on him. And if he operated on him, he wouldn't have got any kidneys. So the kidneys they shot up wouldn't have actually been his kidneys for him to get back. I think what they've done, and it's a lot more clever than you realise. It looks like a big plot hole. Is they shot up, but they didn't shoot up his kidneys because he didn't have them. They just assume Asclepius had operated on him.
Yes.
So they assumed that. So they went back in time and took out his kidneys so they could put them back in. So all they did was they just transferred them from the old one to the new one. There was never an operation by Asclepius to actually do it because he couldn't. So if you look at it, if you think about it, initially when you think about it, it's a case of, well, they shot it, so it's under friendly fire, so they had to go back and take them out the old one to put them into the newer, the past one, put it into the present one. But if they did that, then the past one wouldn't have had them to get taken out to get shot up. So it's a full. So what they've done is, the reason they needed to put them back is because they operated and took them out in the first place.
What was the name of the creature, the thing that...
Asclepius, or Asclepius. I think it was something like that.
Asclepius.
Asclepius.
That looked genuinely freaky, nightmarish thing.
That was
could have been worse. It could have been snacky or something.
Terrifying that thing was. Yeah, that was nightmare fuel. That was.
Yeah.
You won't want to see that in the dark alley.
And that's meant to be the Doctor. No wonder I actually just went on nuts.
Yeah.
And of course, Snacky, they confused.
Yes, but I love Snacky's when he was talking about how the guy gets stabbed in the back by himself.
Yeah. and who thought Robbie the Robot when Snacky turned up?
And that's what reminded me with the ladle spinning and the fish flipper actually spinning. It just met Robbie the Robot. It was always the thing of that. But it was the fact, the description of the guy who got stabbed in the back by himself. He basically says, I heard them talking, and he says that an old man had come up to him and says to him, "Don't go back in time or else you'll die." Says, and they would get into a fight and he killed the old man just to realise the old man was him. So what he decided was he changed his path to make a time machine so he could go back and tell himself not to go back in time. He got killed. And I thought he gave the whole circle of that by saying, I heard them talking about how he killed this old man who turned out to be him. He needs to go back and tell him not to go back in time. He says he went back in time and get killed. And I thought,
yes, time
if I ever saw one, and it is superb, so well done.
Excuse me, one moment, PJ. I'm just going to put my mic on mute for just a moment. I'll be right back.
Yep. So, the Asclepius one, and if I've got the names wrong, so need to apologise. So let's see. Let's go look at it. The stasis leak. That's right. He used the stasis booth to actually get that. So it was a stasis booth to create a status leak. I suppose that goes back to status leak in the early seasons.
Yes,
that could what caused that. So. And what's this one? I think it implies they weren't Lister's kidneys, but one of the other victims, but then I thought they were. And I think so, Sadako. That's exactly what I was thinking, because the only way it would have worked is if it's circular, thinking that they went back to remove them. And because they removed them, they had to go back and remove them. So it's a circle. So for time travel, this actually worked quite well. And I must admit, considering the time travel elements they usually do, and they do it and forget and do it and forget and stuff like that, and they ignore, and certain things they do which changes other things, that, and you're sitting there thinking, that doesn't make sense. This one was one of the few that I thought did make sense, because the things that they did were caused on things that they did when they went back, and the things that they did when they went back, because they didn't understand it, caused them to do it, to go back to do it. And it was a nice circular argument, that one. So it was, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yes, it does. It does. I think you've summed it up quite well there.
Because I do like a circular argument with the time travel ones. And I definitely think they worked a lot better than some of them. Like, for instance, Ticket to Ride, where they go back, knock him out the window, but then they don't go back, and they go in there, so they don't. He doesn't go in there, so he can get knocked out. But they're popped in, and if they popped in and they knock somebody out the window, it gets convoluted because they're trying to go into different floors to put things out, and with that, whereas this one, it was a nice, neat circle.
Yeah,
and I like that for that. But what's the dangerous universe one?
You might hear some very loud purring. Roscoe has joined us as well.
Well, if you hear any drumming, that's my neighbour in his man cave out the back. He's a drummer. I can hear it, and it's basically he's since we moved in 2 years, every night he drums.
Oh my God!
And he's out the back, so he's got a big shed out the back, and it is his music studio, so it is actually not soundproofed, but it does dampen it down a lot, and I can still hear it from my man cave.
Wow, it must be loud then.
Aye.
Is he a good drummer?
Well, he's got a beat and a rhythm. It's music. My wife is a good drummer, but it's just beating music. But in effect, he does all the time, so he obviously enjoys it. Can't deny anybody in their man cave doing it, doing what they enjoy.
No.
Yes, looks behind it. Yes.
And we have to say the man cave video. We just bow down, and we are not worthy. Most impressed.
See, my wife was going,
there.
You did it the wrong way around. I says, how? She says, it looks like you've got nothing when you started. I says, that's what I did it for. Because I went down and up as if there's only a couple of bits and pieces. I says, then it goes round rather than actually going
build up. Exactly.
I had a feeling that's why you did that, because my first thing was, why has he got it in that sort of ratio? And then I thought, okay, because it was picking up more as well, because you were going floor to ceiling, showing the photos. I could see it was like picking up all of those in sort of one frame.
Yeah, well, it's also, I could have taken my big camera down, or I've actually had the one that I used for this. Could have taken that down and did it all, and it would have been landscape. But it's a lot simpler because a light function on it. So I've had to actually get the light added in, and so I had to have two of them to do it round like that. Whereas my camera and my do that, and actually you switch your camera on and away it goes, and then I could edit it down. But then I thought I was going to add my video collection, my Doctor Who collection, did it, and then do it that way. And then I thought, no, because if I start actually making it a 15, 20, 30 minutes, it's too long. It's just a quick tour in my man cave.
It was really, really lovely. And I like the way you've got all the photos mounted on the wall and the way that they're set up. And I saw PJ without a beard.
Yes,
PJ without a beard in there.
This is basically a lockdown beard. It's basically, my wife likes it, but I did used to not have a beard. Quite a few of the pictures of me without a beard.
Yeah, I was looking at the phone going, that is PJ.
Yeah. And the one with me without a beard with a hat on sitting next to this other big lump, that was a seal. It wasn't just another member of my family.
Oh, right.
Because I used to always say to my dad, I got a picture with him while I was on holiday.
I saw one photo of you when you had Tom's scarf on.
Yeah, I've got the whole outfit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My daughter knitted me the scarf for my 50th.
That's fabulous.
So yes, that was when I met, was it Sylvester?
Yeah, I saw you with Sylvester. I saw you with
Colin. I had my Judge Dredd outfit on.
Well.
Peter, I just had it was a Doctor Who fleece on. It's the only three Doctors I've met because I'm not bothered about the new stuff.
Yeah.
I could have actually
and I saw Katie as well, obviously.
Oh, she is.
Katie's everywhere.
Just lovely. See, I went and got the picture with her. Normally I go and get the picture, then I go and see afterwards so I can get the picture signed.
Yeah.
And I went to see her, and she still came round, gave us a hug, and took another picture with us.
She's amazing.
Yes, and they basically the crew were kept saying, Miss Manning, could you please not do that and just sign and thing me because you're spending the queue's getting longer and longer.
I know. She does.
Nobody was complaining because they all knew when they got there they could talk to her, and it wasn't just a churn. So they had to actually eventually turn around and stand at the end of the queue and say, "No more, no more." But she's just so nice. She just chats to everybody. So she does. Somebody came with her kid, and she came around and gave her kid a wee hug. She says, "You want to talk to her?" Not away to everybody. It was great. She was so pleasant and one of the nicest people. And a lot of the people, like Robert was one of the first guys I met, Robert Llewellyn, and he was so nice as well. I've got a video of my friend was meant to be taking a picture on my phone, but he flicked it to video mode. And he still got it running while I'm trying to explain to him how to use it in picture mode.
Oh, no.
And Robert Llewellyn's giving it that. He obviously doesn't use a phone, does he? Take the piss out of him. Which me and my friend were knocking myself at because it was.
At least he had a good sense of humor.
It was her man. He was slagging, so we were okay with that. But it's most of them I've met, but out of all the people, even every one of them have been nice. Katie Manning was the most lovely. And
yes, I've heard so many wonderful things about Katie, and you can just see how she dialogues with fans.
Yeah,
she's just wonderful.
There was a fan event a few days ago, and there's some pictures of her there with people, and she's just being Katie as she does.
Yep. Well, basically, I met her and Sophie at the same time. Well, I'd met Sophie the year before, but I was getting my picture with Sophie and the Dalek autographed because I'd picked it up the day after I had met Sophie. So I thought I need to take that back and get her to sign it. So Katie was sitting there and Sophie was sitting there, and I stood there and I said to them, I've never been so jealous of a Dalek and so scared to be a Dalek and at the same time. Because there's Ace with the baseball bat, and there was Katie with their pictures with a Dalek. So in one hand I was jealous of the Daleks, and the other one I was glad I wasn't a Dalek. But she is definitely one of the nicest. But it's because I tidied my room up and I'd gone through and dusted it, took everything off all the shelves, reorganised it. I thought I might as well get it done now before people start saying, no, dust it. Every single shelf, pledge, duster, the lot, every single piece of kit.
Yeah, I wonder about the dusting. Yeah, that's the first thing I was thinking. Who does all that?
Yeah, me, I do it in between times before it gets the big duster. I've got an air duster. I just and a feather duster to go around as well.
And to have a Sherlock moment, I can tell you don't have a cat, because there's no way we could arrange our shelves like that.
No, not with Ross.
No, I've got 2 Yorkies and they know no to touch. Because I've got a drawer full of food in there, and if they touched it, they wouldn't get any. So, no, when I had my first collection years and years ago, I had 2 cats. But they never went near. It was only one unit, probably about that size, and it had everything that I'd ever owned on it, and they never went near it.
Wow.
It's because they knew better.
Yeah.
Because I used to have a spray can of water.
Yeah, the water spray bottle is great. It's great because it doesn't do any harm. Obviously, you can't spray it onto like a shelf when you have the stuff up there, which is slightly problematic. But
no. See, that's if you're using the spray as a mist. Try turning it maybe when you go, and it just sends a wee jet of water go onto the cat. It works better.
I used to call it the Wrath of God. The Wrath of God, because years ago when I was growing up, we had quite a few cats, and that's what I used to call it. And pretty soon, all you'd have to do is put the spray bottle on top of the kitchen counter, and it was just there. And then we would just sort of avoid it. But Roscoe, our wonderful boy that we have now, he is a force of nature, totally one on his own. You know that cartoon where I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like one of these cartoons, and it's got a statue of a cat that all these other cats are on the floor sort of marveling over, and it's saying he took 67 squirts in the face and still didn't get off the counter. That's Roscoe.
I've not seen that one. But so I can do one better than that. Remember I was saying that I used to do with the thingy. The reason I didn't use the mist and I used the squirt, it was more effective, because eventually I used to get the squirt and go, and the cats used to turn around and go like that. Because they liked it.
Yeah.
So they didn't avoid the spray when I used to do it, because it was a mist. They used to actually turn around and get it in the face. They were quite happy with it. That's why I changed it to the squirt, so it was a wee shoot of water, because they didn't like that. But the mist, I used to do it with the mist, and they used to run, but eventually they used to stand there going.
Well, they're a bit like the Borg. They adapt, and that's what Roscoe's like. They pretty soon figure you out. He knows exactly how far he can push things before I start launching off the sofa. But we don't have any of our tidy stuff out within pawing distance. It's all behind like a glass case.
Well, I've got a couple of glass cases with the stuff that I don't want anybody touching. Mostly it's my nephews and stuff like that come up, and they usually, Peter, that's why I've usually got doubles of things. And
that's a good idea.
They come up and they go, I'll see here. There you go. I've got a load of new Who figures that I've been given, and they're all packed away. So if anybody comes down, you want a figure? Here you go. There's a Martha Smith. There's a Rose. There's a...
Yeah.
I keep all the thing, but most of the ones that are new Who stuff were things that were gifts. The only ones I've usually got for extras is usually if I buy a job lot at a car boot sale or something. I go through, dig out the ones I want, and the rest of them just get kept in a box. And if somebody comes up, I've given about 20 of the figures away, and it's been because you go in, you see how much your figures, they say £1 each. How many you got? Oh, there's about 12. I'll give you £5 for them. All right then, get rid of them. And so you got a load that you don't like. So I basically just put them in a box, and that way, if anybody comes up and they want a figure, there's plenty in the box. Same as my Batmobile. I've got the Batmobile there. I used to have the wee one, and I gave that to my nephew because he loves Batman.
So I used to have the Batmobile. Yeah, I used to have the original like metal mold of the Batmobile.
That's the one there. It's sitting
there.
there.
Myself for getting rid of that, but I didn't know at the time.
I need to get rid of it.
Back in the 80s, I probably got rid of that.
Yeah.
And I saw you've got the Starsky and Hutch car as well.
Yes, well, that was the size I used to have for the Batmobile. Now I've got the big Batmobile. So I have. But I gave my nephew the wee Batmobile, and it was the same size as Starsky and Hutch. I've got a list of vehicles I want, because I could get a couple of them here and there, and I could buy them, but I like picking them up and going shop, charity shops or car boot sales are ideal for it, because I want to pick up Ecto 1, I want to pick up well, I've obviously got Zebra 1, I want to pick up things like Street Hawk, Chip's bike.
There's so much out there, isn't there?
Oh, aye. It's basically ones from all the programs. I've got a list of all my programs that I've watched and all the ships, space stations, helicopters, airplanes, like Street Hawk and Blue Thunder. I want to get them. Knight Rider, stuff like that. I want a vehicle from every set, and I could go out and buy them, and you could get them for about 40-50 quid. Some of them. Nah, I like actually getting the ones that have been played with and it's been in somebody's.
You kind of feel like you're rescuing them. It sounds crazy, but you kind of feel like you're actually giving them back some meaning, by rescuing them out of the charity shops.
It's the same as like my Eagle. I had that for years. I could get a new one. It only cost me about £200-300 with everything together, but it wouldn't be mine. And if I get one that somebody else had, and it's something that I had when I was a kid, it feels as if it's coming back because it was one that was played with.
Yeah,
and I like that. But I know my man cave is. I did decide it because Daniel and I had actually said I should, and I thought. I'd tried it before, but the videos didn't come out right, and I didn't have a decent video editing software because my video editing software is gone, and I'm trying to find a decent one.
Yeah,
I might have to purchase the one I had before, but it's 50 quid, and it won't allow me to transfer my license from my old machine to my new one. So I don't want to pay another 50 quid just to get it on my new machine. So,
I know there's always some little. It's always expenses. There's always little things that crop up. Unappreciated.
Yep.
Yes, I agree.
You do. Animate objects you don't get. You get sentimental about because you can sit and watch them actually float around. But inanimate objects, people just think they're throwaway. No, I don't know.
Oh my god. Well, where I work, the boys. Some of the team go out and they recover. They come across a lot of fly tips in various places. And if there's any Doctor Who toys thrown about on the ground, they always bring them back to me. So at one point I had like a little Dalek hospital going because one wouldn't have an eye stalk, one wouldn't have, a gun, one would be missing this or that, and that's how I got quite a lot of my Daleks. I've got a K9 that's a little bit damaged. I've got there's
battle damaged.
Here
battle damaged.
What's that?
I call them battle damaged.
Yeah. And I just love sort of taking them in, so it is like a bit of a Dalek hospital around here.
Oh, I do that. So a couple of times I've picked up Daleks and there were bits and pieces missing, and it's a case of putting them aside because I've got screwdrivers, and if I need an eye stalk or I need a gun or I need a plunger, I've got a half a Dalek sitting there that I could just take a screwdriver to and take that off and put it into that one.
Yeah, just a bit of a part Dalek. Yeah.
A wee bit of glue and a screwdriver, and I can put it together. But I'm the same. I'm used to collecting broken bits and pieces anyway, because I used to do terrain for Warhammer, and I used to use them for building stuff up. So I would have bits and pieces of old machines, cars, and stuff like that, and there would be battle damage when I was doing 40k, or like a Dalek could be taken apart, and each they could look like a part of a shrine and stuff like that. So I used to do that a lot, but not as much nowadays.
Yeah.
So, but let's go back to Red Dwarf.
I know.
Give and take. So, what did you think?
Definitely back up the scale a bit. Definitely a better episode. Some very, very funny, good lines. So yeah, I'd go again, like probably another 8 out of 10 for that one for me.
I think it was definitely one of the funnier ones, but I still preferred the first one a bit better. So I'd probably drop this down just for that, just as a 7. Although I think the only thing that actually makes it is just some of the one-liners. I definitely think the one-liners in 20K were slightly better.
Yeah.
This one was... It was so good. It basically it's back in the. I know it sounds dead corny, and I sound like 4 of 27, but it's back in the red. and sometimes they just sound so corny, which I loved about 20K when they kept going. Oh, these things, they're so psychopathic. There's no hesitation in using a trope.
Yeah.
But I think it's 20K had some of the better one-liners for that. This one had some good ones, but I think on a humorous value, it was slightly better. Although the story and the ending were a wee bit better than this one. So it was.
The next one is definitely my favorite.
Because it's Arnold. The background music in the Officers Club. Did you hear it? It's the music from the actual Blue, the Rimmer song in Blue.
I missed that.
You listen to it. It's basically when they're all singing. Arnold, you listen to it in the background.
Oh,
it's the Arnold Rimmer song. That's why I was singing it, because that's the music that they're using that in the background. And see the quartet, they started singing.
Oh my god, it was so much good stuff.
I thought that was going to go into that Arnold Rimmer song, but obviously it's changed around and stuff like that.
They kind of missed a little something there, but
yes. But I think it's because they were using it as the background music in the Office Club.
Yeah.
It's a classical version, so it's not the thing. Maybe so it's the same music, but it's so when you're thinking it's almost like a very classical music as they're all sitting having drinks and stuff like that. Listen to it; it's the classical version. It's like listening to a classical version of heavy rock. It's literally, you can hear it. It is the Arnold Rimmer song, but it's classics. It's basically played on the instruments rather than him singing.
Well, this one just was. I mean, it was hilarious from start to finish, and it had great pacing. This one, I found
it did, and I thought. I thought Captain Herring was hilarious. Stuck in the printer, bang, bang, get himself out.
And he had his eyeballs on top of his head.
Oh, your ceilings are looking quite clean.
And he had to keep turning his head down, The gag was so good.
And the printer did the classic noise as well.
And it made that squeak on his face as well. Anyone who's used office equipment will totally relate to that.
Yes. and the paper stick, and I still go use a desk jet at home.
Yeah,
and the sound as well. They got the sound.
Basically, I remember the old dot matrix.
Yeah,
I used to use them.
I can remember having to load those. Oh my god, what a nightmare those were!
The big box of paper.
Yeah,
I used that.
Oh, yeah,
we still had that. I started the company I'm with 10 years ago, and up until about 6 years ago, they still used it because they had a piece of software. It would only output to phone feed.
Oh yeah. Oh, that paper, yes. Mind you, that's nothing compared to a daisy wheel printer I had when I was in college.
We had those as well.
That sounded like a bozo.
It did. They used to make the soundproof. They used to make the soundproof boxes.
What's that?
When I worked,
you know what the daisy wheel printer always reminded me of?
Yeah.
Like the eye stock, because it used to go like that, turn around. And the eye stock would constantly do that, whereas the daisy wheel was always going. It just somehow, it always reminded me of a Dalek for some reason, just the eye stock because of the movement.
Yeah.
I can just imagine that you'd go crazy.
Reams and reams of stuff that we typed up in one office that I worked in. And they actually had these printers in soundproof cases, and they still sounded like machine gun fire because they were constantly going. It was so funny. They were so.
I remember a prototype years ago. When first computers came out, they didn't have them with printers. Somebody had linked it up to a daisy wheel one. You think it's bad when you were typing and it was going. You imagine when it's been sent by a computer. So you had a word processor linked up to this thing. So there was no pause for the space. It was just, and it's just going same speed all the time. So there wasn't like when you're typing, you type, and then sometimes you would stop and maybe check something, check the line. And this thing was just going. Brr, 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 brr.
Yeah,
that was. They ended up getting rid of it just for the simple fact is it was too noisy.
Yeah,
and that's when the dot matrix came in. It's literally, it was well before the dot matrix, but it was literally the sort of in between, because the company I was in tried it, and it is somebody told them, your printers you already got, all you need to do is get this in between and that'll do the work. University. Didn't work. Yeah, that's what it reminded me of, the old dot matrix. And it was just hilarious because of that, having to actually reset the bloody printer.
Oh God, I know.
Don't talk to me about printers.
Basically, the daisy wheel still turning, it jammed, and it just rattles up behind itself.
Yeah.
On the subject of printers, we can both recommend a film called Office Space.
That's definitely one. Please tell me you have that one. That is one of the.
That's one for
films.
a Saturday discussion. But
yes, I'm trying to. I've got the thing me in front of us with the glasses, the square top, the briefcase, the thing with the baseball bat.
Yeah. No,
you're trying to remember his name.
You're thinking about Michael Douglas. This is something else. That's a different one.
Oh, wait a minute! You're not talking about the one where they take the printers and all that out and they beat them up.
Yeah. That's the one.
Yeah,
I have seen it. I don't have it. I have seen it. It's a long time ago.
One of our favorite films, and I mean, I always run lines from it all the time. It's so funny.
If you worked in any office or technology environment,
I think that's why I'd seen it, because somebody had brought it in on video.
Yeah.
And we used to sit and watch. We sat and watched it because they had said, this is just like this bloody office. Because we would, I would fix a computer with a mallet sometimes. Couldn't get a hard drive in, I would take a hammer to it to flatten out a bit so I could slide a hard drive in. And basically somebody brought it in because that's what we used to do, and that's what it said. I have seen it, but it was a long time ago.
Well, this film is quite dated now, and some of the gags in it are quite dated. But any of us who've been around a little while will remember the old error message PC load letter, and the one character in it is like, "What the hell is that? PC load letter? What does that mean?" And he starts, smashing the machine around and in the office, and it's it's very, very well done.
Yes, I remember all that, and I remember things like debugging COBOL, a 10-line piece of programming, and it could have 40 errors in it.
Yeah,
because you miss one dot.
Yeah.
Oh my
really? Because I
COBOL
remember we wrote for a program, we had to write a coded program with no more than 100 lines of text in it. So we did, and one guy printed his out, and he had 430 errors.
Wow.
And he couldn't find them. We all went through it with him. He missed one dot.
That's what it's like.
Actually knocked everything out because that was there was no that one dot. Everything else after it just didn't make sense. And because of that, one dot, and he fixed it. But 430 errors in a 100-line piece of code. And it took 6 of us to find the error.
When I was in college,
the 430 errors because we couldn't find them.
Yeah.
So we told him to just do them one at a time, and he did the first one, and it sorted it.
When I was in college, we were doing COBOL, and I managed to get 42 errors in one program.
Oh my god!
So I was actually a hero then, and everybody was cheering because I got 42.
Common old business orientated language.
Yeah. Yeah, they were teaching us that on my computer degree in the early 90s. You must do COBOL. You must do COBOL.
95.
Yeah, and then what became the big thing after then?
Turbo Pascal or C++.
Pascal. Yeah.
Alexa does that.
Yeah. I did Turbo Pascal and C++ as well.
Yeah, did all them. And then what became the big thing? HTML and all that.
CSS.
See, the thing is, I remember when Turbo Pascal thought this is a dodo. A equals B times C, whereas in COBOL is multiply A by B given C.
Yeah.
It's basically having to write it all out, and whereas it was A equals B times C. So there you go, it was easy. Whereas that one, it was multiply B by C given A. It was the whole actually could be used to.
I go back to BBC Basic.
I used to basically, it was ZX81 programming basic.
Oh wow!
Was that the one with the flat keyboard? It had like you press down and it had the. That's the one I had.
Yeah, I started with the ZX81. It was my friend was born the year after, so I was 16, and when I told him it was celebrating it's 50th, he says 50th. He says I'm only 34. Oh dear. I was 16 because that would be roughly this year. It was something like that. No, it was last year 15th. So he was born after the ZX Spectrum hit the home market.
Wow.
Because I remember having the ZX Spectrum 1648K, the 16K, the 48K, the 48128K Spectrums, and then the 128 with the micro drive.
Yeah.
With the printer, the silver piece of paper that it printed on. You had your printer. Remember your first printers you got for your ZX Spectrum? Silver paper that broad. It would burn it onto it.
Yeah.
I feel old. Oh, it just goes
Them
to show.
were the days. Them were the days
when you could people telling you in college, come to college, learn to program, you'll be a rock star when you get out.
Yeah.
What programs do you do? COBOL? Oh no, that's old. I only did it last year. And basically, by the time you come out of uni, it was already old because they don't.
That's pretty much been the continuation.
That's what I found.
Just finished learning something, and it's already
obsolete.
That's what I found. I came out of Gwent College of Higher Education with a degree, and it was outdated and useless before I'd had my cap and gown ceremony.
Yeah, I found that if I had stopped when I got my HND and not gone to get my degree, I would have been just as fine, because I found my degree gained me nothing, because everything I learned in it was not used. Everything I learned in the HND was support functionality. So how to actually get things installed, uninstalled, fix something if it wasn't working. It's even like programming, even if we didn't use the programming, the fact that you had to debug it and work it out so it gave you the knowledge to actually go through things, like if something's not working, start at the beginning, go step by step to see where the problem is. So yes, the switching it off and on, if that doesn't fix it, then
exactly. We all need
off,
to turn it off and back on again.
Yep. Yeah. You know what? See, people don't understand that. See, when people say turn it off and back on again, they say, "Oh, that worked." This is because 99% of your problems is your memory or your hard drive or something. That all that does is shut all your programs and reset it to 0. So if your program's knackered, that'll fix it, because you're using all your memory, you're using all the hard drive space. Your hard drive's overheating. It just basically cuts it down, turns it off, let it back again, and then everything's clear. They think that's amazing. No, it's like turning your if you want to change your light bulb, you don't actually switch the light on and go switch everything off just to make sure it's all clear. But people still don't understand that. They think that you've done something magical in the background.
Yeah.
Just call me Harry Maybe. Who's to do? He knows how. They're talking about emulators.
I know, it's so easy to get off track.
I know. The university has one purpose: to get to know people that you learn in uni. Has an extremely short shelf life and needs to keep up it going. That was Jim. So he's right. Basically, anything you learn in uni is so it's an ongoing process. Unfortunately, yes, I know. But it would actually be nice if you had a year after you come out of uni to actually use it, rather than actually the year before you finish uni. It becomes obsolete. But I feel old. Feel older.
Anywho. Right. Had a big stuff coming on then.
Right. So, give and take, a good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. And then we're on to Officer Rimmer.
Officer Rimmer we're on to now.
Now, have we got a pen?
The best thing was that I love when they just do the Mickey take of all the different major sci-fi films at the time, and this was like the thing. So the mutant thing that was created by the biocopier malfunction, I was creasing myself laughing. That was so funny.
Well, you look at it, they've done Alien.
Oh, they've done them all.
Yeah.
Alien.
The one with Cat.
Star Trek, the book, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I mean the one with the cat with the replicants, basically the polymorph again.
Yeah. Can of worms.
Yeah. I mean, it's just all the tropes they use. They take it and they just sit their head. Because you look at Back to Earth. That was Blade Runner.
Yeah. The thing about it though is that they take it's a bit of a Mickey take, but it's not in a nasty way. You don't feel like it's
a homage rather than a
homage. Yeah, exactly.
It's an Orville rather than a
Exactly.
It's along the lines of an Orville or Galaxy Quest, rather than things. See, Fanboy was a bit of a homage, but it took the piss out of other aspects like the Star Trek franchise. Have you seen Fanboys?
No.
Fanboys is basically about a guy's dying and he's a big Star Wars fan. It was before the Empire Strikes Back came out. and he's going to die before it comes out. So they decide to go and steal the cut of it, because according to Skywalker Ranch, so they all they go on a road trip, and in the process they go by the home of James T. Kirk, and they destroy and they have a fighting thing with the Star Trek guys, and they destroy the thing. So it's basically they have a fight with them. It's
I think
it's good, but they trash one fandom at the cost of another.
Yeah,
and I didn't like that aspect of it. If I was a Star Wars fan and I didn't like Star Trek, it's great. But because I like both of them, the originals, I was not keen on it. But so it's like that. So it's a homage with along the lines of like the Orville Galaxy Quest, rather than one that
it's an affectionate take as opposed to
Galaxy Quest. That's not good fun.
Knocking it, that's always a successful strategy. It never works, like you say, when they try and sort of diss one over the other or something like that. It's never going to work.
Yeah, it's like the book. Dr. Wayne, Dr. Y. There's a book called Dr. Y. It's a Mickey take to an extent out of Doctor Who, but it actually it's not a nice. It's not a nice Mickey take. I didn't like it. Halfway through it, I just dump that, get rid of it.
Yeah.
I've got a Dr. Y comic. And that's meant to be really good. I've not read it yet. I've got it on my shelf up there, and it's meant to be good, but I've not read it yet. So, and that's meant to be it's in the universe of Doctor Who. This is a Dr. Y, but it's more of a comic one, so rather than as in Doctor Who or you. Doctor Who, doctor of what? This one is a doctor. Why are you a doctor? That type of thing. It's meant to be a Mickey take of it. But it's not meant to be a bad Mickey take. It's just setting the world about this guy who's calls himself the Doctor, but it's a twisted way, because it's people asking him why he thinks he's a doctor. So Dr. Y rather than Doctor Who. It's
I mean, if you're going to do it, it's got to be really well done
to
be successful, and it's got to be done in such a way that it's it's not sort of pissing on what came before. It's just an effect.
No. You know fine well they're actually doing that in the actual TV program. So probably can they do it?
Well,
yeah.
Indeed.
Well, that's another can of worms, so to speak.
Yes. ha. Got you there, that one.
We've got one in between there.
Yes, we haven't got.
Yes, we have. If we don't go, we might be a bit of a crisis.
Yes.
Just a quick word on Officer Rimmer. We say we enjoyed that. It sort of revisits the multiple Rimmers theme, which we've seen before, but it does it well. And you've also
weirdly
seen that there's something dark about Rimmer's psyche, that whatever, it's going to go badly wrong.
Well, the fact that he not only creates all the Rimmers to be his underlings, but he also creates the Rimmers to be the waiting staff, to be everything. And considering what he's like, you can imagine what the waiting staff are like. You can imagine how resentful they are, that just because they were printed that way. Why can't they be an officer? Why can't they get in the officers' club except when they're serving? So you can imagine what's going on in their minds, even though you only see them fleetingly handing a drink, sort of giving it a wee sneer, because you can just imagine what he's like in the background. He's never going to be happy.
No. Yeah. Again, created a monster.
Because he was just impatient. He
kept hitting it. Yeah. So of course he kept, and that's what I loved. It was this constant, throwback to like, you
That's
would
what you
always
do with
get
printers.
based
If
on,
it's not printing, print them.
yeah, and then you'd end up getting like all sorts of, mutated things coming out the other side, and pages. Usually, your document would come out printed on 3 different pages, half, like they would all come out together. So it was very accurate. It was very good.
It was, and do you know things like that's why the urban legend came around, because people used to do it with lifts. And the urban legend came around that the more you press the button, the system is designed to slow the lift down.
Okay.
So the more you press the button, the slower it takes to get to you. Which is obviously it's not true. It's because it was to try and stop people constantly press the button.
Yeah.
Because they think if they press the button and they press it, it's going to come fit quicker. So rather than tell people it doesn't come any quicker or slower, they started actually putting out that it's designed that if you press it, it slows it down.
Yes.
So I think the press calls it, any presses after that, and within a certain time, it would slow down. And I don't know how many people actually believe that. I've heard people actually saying when I pressed the button, I've pressed it once, if you press it anymore, it'll slow it. And really, even now, they still believe that.
Yeah.
It's because it was an urban legend, it was out, and people obviously tell kids, the same with the Green Cross man, don't press the button too much because it'll take longer for it to come on and we'll be standing here longer. And it's just something put out there that to try and get people not to do something.
It's not a logical way to design a system, is it?
I know. Because you could be standing there and a kid going like that, you're standing there for hours.
Yeah, and speaking of which, Sadako says Rimmer specifically designs the working class lift to be slower, hotter, and crankier.
Yes, it's hilarious until you get in it. There's a deranged one of me. He says, there's a deranged one of you in here as well. Yes, it was a cranky lift. But I like the end as well.
The lift gets its rear
lift gets its own back.
Yeah.
He's basically designed it so I can reach almost the speed of light. I've just not tested it yet until you came in. Hang on. I must admit, just the idea of Liv getting his own back because he was nasty to him, but he realised the reason he was nasty to him is because he was still trying to help him, so he'll be nice and get him a promotion. But as soon as he walks out the lift, he forgot all about him.
Of course he did.
I think that would have been a nicer one if they left it a season, and so like at the end of Crisis or somewhere in Crisis.
Remember that promise you made to me?
He basically has to go to the lift and then he starts talking about something. So he basically realised that in between he's forgotten that lift, but so have we. Now there's a callback to the lift getting his own back. So
yeah, that's got its pros and cons, I suppose.
Yeah, because if something Rimmer needed to do and he needed to go in the lift, and then the lift takes that time to get his own back, and it could have been a couple of episodes down the line, or even just the next episode, just that wee delay would have been, I think, funnier because it would have been a callback, and it would have been the showrunner turning around and saying, "We hadn't forgot it." Well, I suppose they wanted to close that loop because
I think that made for quite a good ending.
It did make a good ending, but I just thought it would have been funnier an episode or two later.
Yeah,
the left going, oh, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it was a good ending, and I thought this was one of the stronger ones.
I agree.
And it gave Chris Barry a hell of a lot to do.
It did.
But even the fact that he actually blocked off the corridors and everything.
Yeah, and he had like the thing that you see in the airports. He didn't even have to move his legs to go down the corridor. He just stood on the ramp, the sort of conveyor belt thing.
And they were watching on the screen. It looked like a Pac-Man game. Enjoyed that.
That was funny as well.
Yeah, that was a nice little throwback.
Yeah, but I must admit, I did like it. I think it was probably my second favourite out of this season.
Yeah.
So it was. Which brings us to my favourite.
Oh, yes.
Crisis.
The
reason it's one of my favourites is because I bought my Harley. So I basically bought my Harley about 10 years ago. 2007. I bought a Harley. So
there you go.
through my late midlife crisis then. So I've already been through my midlife crisis. Bought myself a Harley Davidson a lot. Got the tattoo. Can't really see it that way. It's a motorbike. It's a flaming motorcycle.
Oh, cool.
So as you can just see top of it, but I would need to twist.
Is that like from Ghost Rider? Is that the?
Yes, it's like a Ghost Rider one. So it's a flaming Harley. So I went through, that was my midlife crisis and all that. I got the tattoo there that says no fear, because I used to drive my bike like a nutcase. But yes, I went through my midlife crisis, so I could appreciate the red the red paint job.
I love the subwoofer, the sort of stereo subwoofer thing. And Kat was like dancing with him.
Talking about suspension, how he can take corners at a slightly faster speed because he's lower suspension and stuff like that. I had a lot of friends who were right into their cars, and that's the type of thing they would go on about. And mine was a Harley. I just wanted to sit in a Harley and drive as fast as possible. I can outrace your Harley. I says, right, fine, let's go on the motorway in rush hour and see who can get there fastest. Motorbike every time. But yeah, I went through my midlife crisis. But it was even things like the description. He's going through his midlife crisis. What do you want to do? A road trip herding vacuum cleaners. Yeah, obviously, that's basically that is City Slickers. It's a callback. That's a callback to City Slickers. Remember, they go on their midlife crisis to go and herd cattle.
It's Billy Crystal and oh my God, what's his name?
It's
he was legendary.
Yes, and I know his name's right at the tip of
my
tongue.
And he was like properly mad as well. He was probably scary dude, that guy.
His name's right at the tip of my tongue. I was watching one of these movies the other day.
No.
Jack Palance.
Jack Palance, thank you.
Yeah, and you was just basically sitting there, and it's just the
I could see his face because his face is up, and he was also in Keaton's Batman as well.
I've only ever seen that once, but I know
that's my favorite of the newer.
Jack Palance is a big western. Basically, I've a lot of his westerns. I've got a lot of John Wayne westerns as well. I do like my westerns as well. So, but Jack Palance was just superb in City Slickers. But that's what this was. That joke was a callback to. A road trip herding vacuum cleaners, and that's what it was a callback to. And I thought, yes, because they did that. Remember a few seasons ago, like Ticket to Ride was a Ticket to Ride, and they did a few other ones. It was plays on music or movies.
Yeah.
They do that quite a lot. So there's sometimes as a joke in there, it's a play on words, which is, if you look at it, it's a movie, or they do a simple play on the concept, like Aliens, like The Thing, stuff like that. But this one, I thought, yes. And Butler, he's a 3000 series. Yes, well, I just designed
that actor.
That actor. I got to finish my book reading. No, writing.
It completely backfires because he thinks he's going to, show Crichton how evolved he is. And then he was just like a complete brainiac.
It took me back to Legion.
Not seen that.
Legion, as in
Red Dwarf episode.
Red Dwarf, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the other, like a film.
No, Legion, because remember they were asking Legion to come and join them because look at how sophisticated he is. If he did this, and because of all the statues and all that, and that's exactly what they did with Butler. As soon as they realised they did the music, he painted his own pictures, and in his medical knowledge, they wanted him to come with them. Never mind what Crichton says. They did the same with Legion. They wanted Legion to come with them because of all these things they could do for them.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
That one scene though where I forget who it was said Lister stuck up for Crichton, as he always does. They were gonna, I think it was probably Kat or Rimmer. It was either Kat or Rimmer suggested that they just dump Crichton and take this guy.
That sounds like Rimmer.
Yeah, it was it was really
no. Rimmer's was why did you get him to clean out the toilets or something?
Yeah. I actually cringed. I was like, no, we love Crichton.
You can't do that to Crichton. No.
The only part of this episode I didn't like, and it's only because I think it went on a wee bit too long, was the mwah, 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 and then they're all joining in, trying to get the pronunciation of that. Mwah, mwah, and it just seemed to go on too long. They were all joining in, but it was going on too long. Even the Tinita Kawi kept doing it in the background in the picture. Yeah. And I just thought that just went on that wee bit too long.
That's a tricky one.
The idea of it was funny, but all of them joining in for such a long time, it just seemed to kill the joke.
That seems a really tricky one to pull off because it needs to go on for a while in order to be fully funny. But if it goes on a little bit too long, it just...
And I think it's the same idea as we've said before, that it's almost like they didn't have somebody to rein it in because the jokes go a couple of seconds earlier, it would have been funny, but because it goes that wee bit long, it starts getting into the
cringe.
Going on. They did that before, and it's the same idea. I just think there was just a slight delay. If they had actually just cut it a second or two, that 1 or 2 seconds just takes it over. And I think this one was a similar idea. They could have cut a wee section out of that, and it wouldn't have been as cringy, because I think it went from funny to cringe because it just carried it on too long. It's almost like an Alan Partridge or a Ricky Gervais, but they do it deliberately to be cringy because their humour is cringy.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas this one's not meant to be, but it started going down that route. So
still some really funny moments, especially like I said, I love Kat, but the scene where Kat's dancing.
The Cat he's a scene stealer. He's still, I mean, 11 seasons in, and Danny John-Jules just grabs every scene.
Yeah.
He's in. The only one scene I think I didn't like him in, and it's the next season. It's the next episode.
Yeah, I thought that was a little forced as well. It was. Yeah. It wasn't. It's definitely not my
because favorite. You're always used to seeing him. It was like the one in. It was the polymorph, the very first polymorph, when he got his styling all taken off, and instead of being Dwayne Dibley, he was the drunk. Didn't like that one. Yeah. Whereas afterwards, they made them the Dwayne Dibley characters, and anytime the Mohawk took him, he turned into Dwayne. Or any jokes about him losing his cool, he always was Dwayne. I think in this one, it's the same idea. They changed them into, not this one, sorry, Can of Worms. They changed them into, they've taken the style off him. And when you take the style off him, even though he had the pink outfit on, which was very stylish, but because they took the style off him and the hair and all that, he just didn't
feel right. No, it didn't. It didn't feel right in many places.
Yeah. But I think that's always the same. But in Crisis, I thought his delivery was just superb.
Yeah.
And then you had the universe, basically with the Morgan Freeman voice.
Thank you. Yes. I was thinking Morgan Freeman because we were listening to that, and it took me a second, but it wasn't quite. It was like a modulated Morgan Freeman.
Aye, it was basically Daniel Barker. But I think he not only did the Morgan Freeman voice, he also did the David Attenborough voice.
Yeah.
So I think he did both of those.
Although Wen and I, we were just our personal choice. If the voice of the universe had been Tom Baker,
Yeah.
I see that. To me, that would
we'd
have
loved
been,
that.
that would have been perfect, because
Yep.
If I'd been casting,
I would have actually said to Tom, "Could you play that?" But you look at his; he's got a very deep baritone type voice. So
Yes.
if they're wanting that Morgan Freeman bassy voice, baritone, it's a baritone or a bass, but it basically would have been very iconic. And he's got a very similar voice to that. The cadence of it and the how deep it was. I think that would have been a better one. But nothing to do with the fact that he's Tom Baker.
Oh, I mean, he could read the phone book, and you know, we'd be completely destroyed.
He's describing how paint dries, and there you go. We're all sitting listening.
Yeah.
So I did like Crisis, and it's definitely my favourite. I just loved even the bit where Baker was helping him, and it turned out he failed. Oh, I'll just dig out that and just have a wee word with him. And it turns out he just did it. Yeah, I come in a first name basis. He's on my speed dial.
Yeah, that was great.
Basically, even though, yes, you failed, this happened and that happened to the ship. And yes, well, I basically thought I would actually introduce you, help you get over it. And then the universe is a midlife crisis. 14 billion years. I'm halfway through my life, and suddenly, where's it all going? And basically, I just thought that was the fact that they could give the universe a midlife crisis. It's just, that was just so funny.
Well, that was great. I thought that was like up there with something Douglas Adams would have come up with.
Yeah.
Oh God, aye.
Yeah, definitely.
There's another one I want to do. Hitchhikers, not the movie, the actual TV show.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because I've got the TV show and I've got the radio play, and I've got the new movie, but I didn't really like the new movie.
The radio play is my first exposure to it.
Have you listened to the radio play Son of Cliche?
No.
That's where you first meet Dave.
I've heard of it, but I haven't caught up with it yet.
Son of Cliche, I might have a clip of it. If I have, I'll send you a link to it.
I think it's on BBC Sounds now.
It could be. But it's basically Son of Cliche. I've got the Son of Cliche, which is Grant Naylor, early stuff. Cool. And Dave, he's no Dave Lister. He's Dave something. I can't remember. Basically, Space Cadet. He's Dave something Space Cadet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave Hollins. Is it Hollins or Hollister?
Sadaku
saying Hollins, but I thought why is this not showing? How come it's not showing? It's not letting me. There you go. It's starting to put it up. Dave Hollins. I thought it was Dave Hollister. It's only when you said Hollins, the Dave Hollister came in, but more than likely Dave Hollins. But Space Cadet, Son of Cliche is. You can see it aged. It didn't age very well, but you can see the premise for Mr. Lister. So you can.
Yeah, yes, I'll have to track that down.
Well, if I can dig it out, I'll send you a link to it. It is really, really good. Definitely.
We're getting cat bombed here. You can't see it, but Roscoe's decided that he wants attention now.
The cat's being a smeghead now.
So he's proper smegger now. But we love it.
Yeah, you heard you talking about Cat.
Yeah, he is. He is like Cat. He is. Right. Everything here is mine. That's mine. That's mine. I like the female cat, which we thought at the time was a female cat, which again didn't make sense, but you think, okay. And but she's walking down the corridor and she's going, that's mine. That's mine over here. See that? That's mine too.
See, initially I thought when I first saw her and she started doing that, I thought they're not going to do what they did with the Red Dwarf USA pilot, which luckily they didn't. They basically stuck to more of the cat and that was in her ship, and in his cat Red Dwarf. That's mine. That's mine. See that bit there? That's mine as well.
Oh wow! Okay.
I thought it would have actually been better if he'd actually pointed to a wee circle and said, "That's not mine." Because remember, right at the very beginning, he would go, "That's mine. That's mine," and he'd go, "I'll accept that bit. That's everything else is mine's not that bit." I thought he would have actually pointed to that bit and said, "Accept that bit," because he did. Because that joke right at the beginning, where he actually drew the wee circle and saying, "I'll accept that bit," but they didn't. It's a. I think it's a option to miss, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it was a opportunity missed by calling back to the very first time you saw Cat with his spray can going, "That's mine, that's mine."
Yeah,
except that bit. The rest of it's all mine, but not that bit. I thought you would have done that with that cat lady saying, "See that bit there? That's not mine. That's the only bit it's not mine." But they didn't.
Yeah.
He just went on with the "That's mine, that's mine." It's just a copying of her.
I think they missed a lot of opportunities with this one because it was the first cat-focused episode. Well, it should have been a lot better, especially for Danny. You know, it should have been much more of him, I think. There was a fair bit, but I just feel like it was a little bit of a missed opportunity, like you said. You know, about the other thing, I wasn't it was all right, but I wasn't overly blown away by this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. However, when the female cat was found, I thought they were finally going to do the rejected cat episode from season 7. See, I never even thought about that. I must admit, it's only because it was. I know what he's saying about the rejected cat. See that one. Remember, it was all about how he got kicked out and stuff like that. He was rejected, but I didn't think about that at all. I must admit, there was a couple of things in this I was quite surprised at, like the mechanoid.
Yeah.
The also appeared in Doctor Who.
Really?
Yes. And I got this from IMDb because I didn't really know. The droid in the episode appeared in the episode The Rings of Akatan.
Oh, wow. I think I've only seen that one like one time.
Yeah.
I think it's the same as most of the new stuff. I've only ever seen it once now.
It's
basically forgettable.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of the newer stuff that I've seen multiple times, but that particular story...
It had a lot of singing in it. It was a bit...
it didn't really thrill me, you know, that one. But that's a really interesting one. That's an interesting...
I know. I must admit, I didn't realise that because obviously it's not something I would have noticed. Whereas obviously noticing things like... the flight suits in Star Wars were the same spacesuits from Doctor Who. But then again, I'm old enough to remember them. Apart from the colour. Obviously, it was in black and white initially.
Do they? Yeah, that's a new one on me.
Right, Doctor Who, see the... I think if I remember what episode it was, they basically, some of the pilots, they've got, it's basically a flight suit they had in Doctor Who. A couple of years later, it appeared years later in Star Wars. If you look it up, Star Wars Doctor Who spacesuits or something like that in Google, you might find it. You'll see it. I think one of the guys is a lizard or in it.
On that subject, I've seen, I forget which episode it was in Red Dwarf. There was definitely some outfit. There was like a helmet, like a motorbike helmet. I can't remember which character it was, but I'm sure that prop that would look like a reused prop from Doctor Who.
Would that not have been the Hudson? Remember Hudson to replace Crichton? And
yes, yes, that one. And there was something else. I thought, oh, wait a minute, there's a bit of prop recycling going on there.
Yeah, the only two I can think like that would have been Hudson and the Inquisitor.
Yeah,
because of the motorbike type of helmet. But then again, there's been so many simulants and stuff like that. But Hudson, I could see that.
Yes, I'd have to go back and track it down and look at it again. But there was definitely something where you think, oh, wait a minute, that's probably come out of the prop box somewhere.
Yeah, I'm just actually just looking to see if I can find that link. But the Dominique Moore was the cat, and Kita. I didn't know what her character name was, but in IMDb they put her down as Ankita.
Yeah, I was wondering about that as well. I thought, I don't remember an Ankita character, but obviously that was just what they called it for the script. Yeah. Yeah,
see, I think what they wanted to put a cat in it somewhere, and Kita, as in Kita cat. Not a very good pun.
I don't know.
Not a very good pun, but I can't. What else is that? What do we got? I've got down here. Yeah, they can smell virgins. Really? I just thought, and you could see Rimmer. He was quite happy because, what was his name? That name was right at the tip of my tongue. The short put champion. Oh no, is it the weightlifting champion? Oh, her name. Magruder. No, Magruder.
Magruder, yeah.
Basically, so he was happy, so he knew not to be scared. He wasn't the one that was scared, but the cat into no counts. Especially, he was all down, and all the weird stuff, and the big snake thing that come down your throat, and you're a moron. She wasn't a cat, she was a polymorph. It still counts. I thought it was just hilarious. It was just the walk of yay, and it's just a case of when all these weird things to do, you don't do it, and it's the big snake thing. And let me tell him, you're a moron. But I just thought it was so well done. I still can't find that. Where is it? I think it was on Twitter a couple of days ago. That's what reminded me of it. Ah, there it's there. It's Doctor Who Star Wars. It's I think it was the one Jamie had on. Let's see.
There's definitely a number of actors who've been in both.
Why is this not sharing? I've told it to share and it's not actually appearing on my screen. I think StreamYard is playing silly buggers. It's the second time it's done this.
You should need to hit it with a mallet.
It's got actually me on here twice. There it's there. It's just taking its time. That's the outfit there.
Oh God, yeah. The bounty hunter, yeah.
Yeah, the bounty hunter. And
well.
Brilliant.
So that's what I'm saying. Wow. So
certain images are just burned into your memory, aren't they?
Yeah. Of course, that would have been filmed at Pinewood Studios.
Yeah, it would have been right. That's why it's popped up. But it's the same idea. You look at what was this thing? Star Trek one. There is a prop in Star Trek, I think, pops up in Stargate. In Star Trek, it was on the ground, and it was just it looked like there was flowing bubbles, as in, so that basically it was that LED sort of just sort of flowing. And in Stargate, I'm sure it was stood up and it was part of a throne or something, and it was doing it. But it's they obviously reused it in something years later because people forget. It's the same as Star Trek: The Next Generation. See the teleport system was the old teleport system turned upside down. Because see the bit in the old teleporters, right? You had the circles at the top, and then you had the base at the bottom.
Yeah,
I just turned it upside down, so you had the circles at the bottom. And basically, it's all it was. It was just basically I think it was the first season before they redesigned it, but in effect, it was just that turned upside down. So it was the same teleporters, just turned upside down. It's just reusing, but they do that a lot.
Didn't they reuse a part of Lister's bunk from Red Dwarf in something else? In Moon.
That's right.
Have you seen the film Moon?
Not yet. It's on my list because I was going to watch it, and then next to Moon was Yesterday's Warning.
We
highly recommend it.
Yes, well, I know that's why I got it. So it's on Amazon, and I've got it in my playlist. But I was about to watch it, and then I saw Yesterday's War, and I thought, I've heard some good recommendations, and it's a new one. Do I really want to watch it? And I thought, well, I don't actually. I've not got time to actually sit down and watch Moon properly. So I was doing other stuff. So Yesterday's War, that Moon, way, if I missed it was not a major issue because it was action and stuff like that. But I still caught up a lot of the stuff. But Moon is on my playlist. I definitely plan to watch that.
It's worth watching that when you have some time to really.
It's actually need to sit and watch it.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And I remember it because I do remember it. It was the fact that he was on his own and he was getting the calls, but they were all recorded because of the time delay. But it turned out they're all recorded and stuff like that.
Yes.
But I'm just wondering that. What's that one? Who'd have thought Star Trek and David Cronenberg would work so well? The Star Trek prequel movies starring Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. Oh, I don't even know what that's about.
Nor me, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Yes,
It's the Fly.
Oh,
Jack God. And the teleport thing.
Yes, okay. Good one, Sadako.
And that one there, Sadako, that is the book I'm on, and that's the part of the book I've just finished. Why
do they need to put that in there? That just seems like
Actually, sorry, it's not in backwards. I'm watching it. It's Better Than Life. The cat's got a sex scene in Better Than Life as well. And it's not very politically correct, shall we say. But we'll get that when we cover it. See, there's something wrong with my machine. I can't select properly, and it's taking an age. So my machine will need to get a restart. So it's probably best if we start rounding up, because I am wondering if my machine's going to actually go, nope.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to actually do the same as it did the last time, but it's because anytime I click on something, it's taking a while to come up. And then I think it's StreamYard. Don't think it's my machine. Because when I shared that screen, suddenly I had two windows of me, and both of them were me, not one was a shared. Then eventually it popped up. Then eventually it disappeared after I told it to remove it 2 or 3 times. I think StreamYard's playing up, and I'm just wondering if they're going to cut it at any point because of the issues with that. So we'll go to the most important episode. Cat-centric, can of worms. What would you give it out of 10?
I'd only give this one probably a 7, I think, even though it's about Cat, which sounds crazy coming from me, but I just thought this could be so much better, really.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, it looked a wee bit off with Cat with his messy hair, and he didn't look as dapper.
No, it didn't. It didn't. I mean, what was that about? All this weird, the hairstyle they had on him too was just like.
Do you know, I thought it failed on. It sort of implied that because he was pregnant, he let himself go.
Yeah, it just didn't work.
Which I thought was, sorry, have you actually ever been married, got a wife, whatever, with kids?
Yeah. Yeah, it was like,
yes, there's times in our life we all let ourselves go, but it's not just because. Usually, if you're got the kids, and the kids are the ones that make you decide to let yourself go because you're not got time to do both. But sort of implying that he looked at state because, and I thought, no, it was off. It just reminded me of the one when the polymorph took his thing when he was the drunk. I don't like Danny John-Jules doing those type of roles. And yes, the smart mother knows their own kids. And that type of thing
just didn't work for me. Yeah, I was just like, oh, come on.
The Cat is a very anti-Cat's personality. Wasn't the Cat's personality?
No.
It'd be like, I suppose, like Lister actually going, my emotions. Hi, help me! Bang! Shooting a cat. Shooting the cat. How do you know it was them? I didn't. Yes, he got his emotions taken off him, but having his emotions taken off him, and actually, I'm still being disinterested. Because yes, he might not have any emotions, but logically, he should still know that he can't just shoot somebody unless he knows. And that was
the whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing was just a little bit like, nah. They didn't quite work. Sadako mentioned, the pacing was off. And Matt Pott is here now.
Right. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Hi, Matt. We're actually just at the last episode.
Good morning. And let's see, what have we got here? We're at
10:38, and
it's almost good night.
PM.
Almost good night from us.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Jim the Viking put a comment up earlier. I don't know if you saw it, PJ.
What about the?
It seems like what happened to me is spreading to PJ when you're having a problem with your machine.
Yes. He was actually he has me selected it twice and it's jumped. That's twice after
jumped then, yeah.
It could be a StreamYards thing because we were.
I think it's StreamYards because it's only when I'm doing stuff in StreamYards that is having the issue. So, like, for instance, when I was doing the search for the page, no issues. But as soon as I was on StreamYards and told it to share and thingy, I think it's an issue with StreamYards.
Yeah, we've noticed it on other streams lately. These little glitches and delays and little
could be just a case of there's so many people using StreamYards now.
Could be.
I'm paying for StreamYards now rather than just using the
well, if you're paying for it, it's worth dropping them an email maybe just to see if there's been any known issues.
Yeah, it's only for the simple fact is I was doing more than 20 hours a month.
Yeah.
Christ almighty, my Saturdays were doing, my 4 Saturdays were doing over 20 hours a month.
I know.
Although, see this Saturday coming up, no problem. See this Saturday after, Saturday 23rd, the 23rd, 24th, I'm in a very strict timeline. I can't do any more than 2 hours if I can do it at all. I've got friends coming and I've not seen them for over a year and we're going out. If I get back, I might be able to do 2 hours. Otherwise,
well, rather than pressurizing yourself, I mean, why don't you just make that one a Saturday skip?
I could, but I still would like to do it to keep
I know you
mental
keep
going.
sort of
But
algorithm
it's just so
going,
easy aware now. Since Matt and Jim's here, I thought about actually say it out. But just in case, so everybody's aware, I'm aiming to try and do at least a wee bit, but I think it might be too short. But we'll see.
Well, whatever you decide to do,
Yeah.
we'll be there. So
Yeah. My friend's coming down. I've not seen her for over a year. Her and her daughter. So yes,
that's lovely.
So we're going to go and do something. So I don't want to actually say, right, shut up now, I'm away.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, everybody's pretty laid back. You know, just let us know what's happening, and
yeah. But just as we're starting to get things going,
yeah,
I do enjoy sitting talking all that stuff. We got slagged, by the way. We only lasted 5, and me and Jim asked, we're still there at 5 hours 15 minutes.
I know.
Just as we were about to finish,
All that.
The captain came in and Mr. Brown and all that, because they've obviously finished their stream, so they came over just as we were finished, and we got slagged because we finished because they came in. Nearly 5.5 hours.
Yeah, that was
it's 5.5 hours the week before and 5 and 4 hours 15 minutes last week.
That's like Friday Night Tights.
I was just going to say that. Yeah,
marathon stream.
Friday Night Tights, the last one, only was 2.5 3 hours. It wasn't a long one. It was actually, I think it was 3.5 hours most. Friday Night Tights, the most recent one, it wasn't that long. 2 hours 45 or 3 hours, I'm sure it was. And I'm sitting there thinking, because I used to keep thinking, how can they actually last that long? And then I realised it's dead easy when you're all gabbing.
Yeah, well, when you're talking about something you really enjoy, the time just goes.
Yeah. And I must admit, it's just the fact that we're just talking about good old-fashioned movies and
exactly something we've really missed, and I think that's why we're really enjoying these streams immensely.
Oh, definitely. I'm definitely a Saturday stream I'm loving. It's just the fact is, like, even now with MC and that had suggested pick because I do go out usually try and go out once a week and get into charity shop, see if I can pick anything. But I've always got stuff that's just added to my list, and even some things that I want everybody to watch. I want to tell everybody, I want to tell the world about this. Yes, I've done some videos, but videos of me just sitting talking about it. But when you're sitting explaining to people and telling them how good it is a bit different, because you can get into it a bit more. Because you know what it's like, you could sit and tell yourself about all these programs you've liked and stuff like that, but if you're actually sitting telling someone why you like it and what it does and stuff like that, you can be a bit more nuanced, because questions could be asked that you think, well, he does this and that and does that, and that's what I like about it. Because there's certain characters, even like Voyager, there's characters I dislike, but I like Voyager. There's a lot of them I dislike, but I still like the program for some reason. Whereas if I'm just telling people that, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But when I'm talking to somebody and they say, "But why about this?" then it's easier because it expands.
Yeah, so, I like Voyager as well. I was very annoyed with some of the things that let it down, which was that sort of really bland casting, and like, for instance, B'Elanna's character could have been so cool. They should have made her hair longer, given her a bit more
on instead of
she's a beautiful woman, and she was a good actress.
Yep.
They could have done so much more with her character to make her much more
angry one minute, then she was a bit
much sexier. She just was like, she just had the Karen haircut. They all seem to end up with the Karen. Even in Next Gen, Worf had that stupid Karen haircut.
Yep.
He's a Klingon, for Christ's sake. It was better when he was in Space Nine. He had the long hair.
I disliked some of the characters that people actually really liked, and I don't. And I can understand why they like them, but I didn't like 7 of 9 at all.
Well, she was brought in for the ratings, let's face it.
She was brought in for the ratings. People are meant to expect to like her because she was wearing all this sexy outfit. Sorry, if somebody's rude and just obnoxious, don't care what they look like.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah, it's it was a shame. I mean, she's clearly a good actor, but everybody knew why they brought her in, because the show was
exactly why she got brought in, and it was because I remember we were talking about it on Saturday, and I got it completely wrong. I got the Red Dwarf and reference wrong because I was thinking of Jerry Ryan, and from Red Dwarf US was dead off. God, what's his name?
Yeah, I just
Terry
going back
Farrell.
to Galana.
Yeah, basically, like I said, Jerry Ryan was in Red Dwarf instead of Terry Farrell, and I mixed up. So
yeah,
made myself look silly.
well, I just feel disappointed for Voyager because it had a really good opportunity to, you know, go off on its own and really become its, you know, popular. Yeah. 7 of 9. That's what we used to call it, 44 of Double D. Yeah. Again, I just thought like the Tom Paris character, all the characters just were a little bit too bland for my liking. And the
Do you know who was my favourite in it? Harry Kim. And yet he wasn't a great character. I think he was just one of those characters. Some people, you could understand why they liked him. Someone you can understand why they disliked him, because he wasn't a great character. My favourite character was the Doctor, but Harry Kim I liked, and I think it was because he wasn't overtly pushy or offensive, whatever. He just seemed like a guy who was dumped in there, and he just did his best. So he didn't seem overly.
Yeah, he was a bit of a throwaway character. Yeah. And it's a shame because it was an insult to his character. And again, that's why I have a little bit of I get a bit annoyed. I'm more passionate about Voyager because I wanted it to be such a better product in the end. I liked the Catherine Janeway character.
Kate Mulgrew is she is just such a fantastic actress.
She is. I mean, they had the right person there for that role. They did, but the rest of the casting and the writing was just meh.
Yeah, and the pervert relationship between Neelix and Kes, nope,
that just didn't work. That was just bizarre. I mean, Neelix might have worked as the real like oddball, unusual character. He might have worked because the actor that played him is brilliant. He's an excellent actor. He was really, really alien, clearly, but that they just took his character in so many weird directions, and that whole thing with Kes, the Kes character was just
that was just
done
weird.
Without that completely.
Do you know why I disliked that? Because no matter what about they only age until they're about 9, then they die. So that is their old age. So yes, the maturity level. So Kes wasn't even 2. Doesn't matter even if you say for every year she's alive, it's like 10 years. So when she's 2, she's 20. When she's 9, she's 90. So give or take either way. However, at one point she goes through puberty, because they said when her body goes through puberty, she prepares for mating. Remember?
Yeah, that was
she goes through puberty. So in effect, he had a relationship with her.
That's like one of those ones you don't want to really look too far under the
It was just the whole attitude of it, because they were treating her like she was very young. And
I don't know what they were
thinking. Then they got to that point, and that's why I never liked that at all. Didn't like it at all. Yeah, I still like Voyager. I can't help myself. I really enjoy it. It's my guilty pleasure. I like a lot. I dislike a lot of the characters, but I can't stop liking it.
But the one who really made it was the Doctor.
Oh God, yeah. Robert Picardo. He's just superb. Stargate. Stargate as well. He was in that.
There was a great.
He was in that.
There's a great image of Robert Picardo floating around on the interwebs, and he's wearing a Matt Smith T-shirt that says "I'm the Doctor," which always strikes me when I see that.
You want to see it? Give me 2 seconds, because I've got my picture with him. Guess what he's wearing? So it's just finding the bloody pictures because I've got that many. As I said, I've got, let's see, 3, 6.
The other character I thought was really underused or underplayed was Chakotay. He was
he
boring.
could have been really good, but I didn't like the spiritual side of it. That
I actually think that would have worked because he was supposed to be kind of a Native American type character.
Yes, but they're using the technology to help him get, instead of peyote or whatever. That's the part I didn't like about it, because it was almost implying it was technology. It was taking them there.
They were
it's meant to be a spiritual thing.
Instead of, if you're going to do it well. You know, give the character some really interesting depth and make his appearance a little bit less boring. You know, it was just the tattoo on the face thing was cool, but he just didn't have any personality for me.
I think you're right. It's just that it was the possibility to be really good, but it ended up really not so good. I'm just trying to find. Oh, it's typical. You can never find them when I'm looking for them. I've got them all here, but there's so many years. MCM. It was MCM I went to. That's not that year. That was the MCM year I went as Dungeons and Dragons characters. And that's when I met Katie Manning. Bummer. This is terrible. I've got the picture actually sitting there. So I have Robert Picardo. Where are you? Because that's what he's wearing. Me and my daughter are getting the picture with him. So it is.
You know what I loved about First Contact as well was that Robert Picardo, the actor that played Neelix, bless him, I can't think of his name, and somebody else had a cameo, I think, in First Contact. They were in the holodeck program that Picard uses, and he jumps in there with Lily to hide from the Borg. And I think they're like
that's the one with the Borg thing with the machine guns them.
Yeah.
Switching off safety
Ethan
protocol.
Phillips. Well done, Sadako. Yeah. Ethan Phillips was also in a show called Benson with Renee.
Benson. That was fantastic. That was a split off from Soap.
That's right.
That's right. That used to show.
Benson was the sort of snarky butler, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Snarky would be one way of describing it. Benson was fantastic.
He was.
I can't.
What's his shirt say? Oh, he's got a TARDIS on there.
And it says, "You never forget your first Doctor."
Oh, very good. So he's obviously having fun with that trope. That's good.
Oh, yeah.
That was me and my daughter when we met him.
Yeah, Benson was a great show.
And I remember his line in First Contact with the Borg. He said, "I'm a doctor, not a doorstop."
Yes. Would you like some analgesic cream? Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh, excellent.
That is fantastic.
3 Rimmers.
Fantastic.
But even because we got the reason my daughter wanted that picture with Chris is because she got a very similar one with. So when we went the next year, we went and she asked him, and he goes, so he was over the moon, and she was basically, she went up and asked him a question. Normally she doesn't like actually drawing attention, but when he was up on stage, she got up and asked him a question, and he got a salute from her for the 3rd time of the day and remembered her because.
We lost it. Yeah.
I think you've just frozen on us, PJ. What's going on there? We seem to have frozen.
StreamYard says there. He thought it was gonna. Yeah.
Hello. I think it was the whole broadcast that went because it actually I've got
it just froze. just
whole
froze for a
thing
couple
froze.
seconds,
Remember,
yeah.
I did say StreamYard was causing problems, and it's actually
Yeah.
froze completely on. So I'm hoping StreamYard pops back. It still pops back up.
That says
Yeah.
power cut.
Yeah. Oh, no, again. Perhaps you need to reverse the polarity.
It's back on. It's back on. Guys, don't know what happened there. It was StreamYard's just kicked me off, died, and it actually hung the stream. That was a StreamYard's issue. Sorry, guys. Not my fault this time. Yes. I didn't fall asleep and going. Because the thing is, Jim, because he'd captured me sitting like that because I'd blinked, and as I blinked, it looked as if I was sleeping. Well, when it happened to him, his eyes was wide open and he was looking straight at the camera, so he froze like that. So I couldn't actually even get my own back, even if he had blinked and looked as if he was sleeping for that split second. I could not get it. So unfortunately, Jim, when he froze, he actually looked okay. When I froze, I looked as if I was about to go. But then again, being older, it's more likely I would do that.
I know the feeling.
Welcome to the
I
club,
know the
for
feeling
sure.
very well.
Sent to the ISO cubes. Yep. I've been judged and I've been judge wanting. See, that's another thing I want to do. I want to do a big Dread stream as well. I want to do a Judge Dread stream. And which means anybody that wants to do it will have to watch both movies. Because we want to do a comparison, likes, dislikes. Because there's things in the Stallone movie I love, things I dislike. But there's things in the new Dread movie, the Carl Urban one, and the things that I dislike. There's a lot more that I like than I dislike in the Carl Urban ones, but there's a lot more that I dislike than I like in the Sylvester Stallone. And I think I could have come up with a perfect mesh.
Yeah.
Definitely want to do one on that. I'm actually even thinking of doing a third stream. I know.
You're going to be divorced.
It's either that or I'm going to find a lock on the outside the door and I'm going to starve to death.
They're just going to saw a hole in the door and pass your meals to you like in a prison cell, you know?
I'm okay with it. As long as I don't get a slot bucket handed through. No, I'm
yeah.
not in my man cave. I keep saying to my wife, this is going to be my wing of the house. Because her office is next door, and I've been trying to ask her if I can knock that wall away and expand my man cave that way, and she says no, because that's also the guest bedroom. It's her office. Yeah. So I've asked her if I can take that whole wall away, move into that, so I've got a bigger room. And she said no. I said, that's okay. On the roof, we'll put a room up there. She says, what do you mean on the roof? I says, well, we'll get the roof built so we can put a room up there. And she said, oh, that just because you want a bigger room? Aye. She says, what? But why don't you ask for our main bedroom? If you insist. So I obviously get told where to go to. But I decided
we've never actually watched the Dread films. I don't think I've never.
The Sylvester Stallone one. The brief is a Sylvester Stallone movie.
Yeah.
It's not a Judge Dredd movie. It's a Sylvester Stallone movie.
You can kind of tell just looking at the promotional images and things for that, because I have seen those. And I saw Sylvester Stallone, and I thought, okay, I love Rambo, the first Rambo. That was a freaking awesome film. But that was sort of
him playing
he could do well, but because his character was very sort of moody and you know, and damaged. He played that well, but I wasn't really going, you know, thinking, oh, I got to go and watch that when I saw him in that.
Yeah, I'd definitely watch. Sherry, I judged watch it.
Dread 3D. Dread 3D is called the new one.
But I remember the 2000 AD strips.
Yeah,
from many years ago.
Do you know a good one to watch? Judge Minty. You'll find that on YouTube. Judge Minty. It is a fan-made one about a judge taking the long walk into the cursed earth to bring judge to the lawless. It is classic cartoon outfits. The animation is really done well, and it looks the part. See if we could get a Judge Minty Dread crossover with the setting for Judge Minty. It would be epic. Judge Minty, that's what you're looking for. It's a fan-made film, and it is absolutely amazing.
Oh, we'll take a look at that.
Definitely, but Judge Dredd, the Carl Urban one, the judge is the best thing about it. The city is the least, well, one of the least good things about it.
You know,
and the opposite in Dredd. The city is Mega City 1, but in Judge Dredd movie, the Sylvester Stallone one, the judges are in effect, they are. It's a Sylvester Stallone movie. The fact is, I remember when it was getting advertised years and years before it actually came out, they had already cast an unknown actor, and they showed pictures of him in his outfit, and it was amazing. But they didn't show you his face. He had his helmet on, and it was a case of Judge Dredd starring, and it was just blanked out. It almost like a police poster of it, because you're not allowed to know who Judge Dredd is. So was the joke about it. And they were talking about they wanted to cast an unknown because they didn't want to show his face and they didn't want people to actually recognise him. And then obviously the money people got involved and says, no, you need a big star in this, and they did it. And then Sylvester Stallone, as soon as it came on, Sylvester Stallone got on, they rewrote it to be a Sylvester Stallone movie. That's where it. So you had a lot of the things like the cityscape and all that worked. Even the uniforms to an extent, I wasn't keen on a lot of them, but they sort of tried to do something comic book related. But it just didn't work because it became a Sylvester Stallone movie and it wasn't very good.
Funnily enough, the only comic book, I did dip into comics in the 90s for a while, but the one that really grabbed me was Lobo. I love Lobo comic.
See, Lobo was never my favourite character, but I do know who Lobo is. I do know Lobo is his bike.
Yeah, that's right.
I prefer Lobo to Bizarro, but Lobo. He was a fun character. He was a fun character. He wasn't like a lot of the. He was a character who just did his own thing. He wasn't necessarily bad, but he wasn't necessarily good. That he just did what he felt.
I used to cry laughing reading the comics because some of the lines that he'd give him, you want to tell me while you still got a mouth, it was just, some of the stuff was just, it's just gratuitous violence, most of it, but it's something about the character. He's quite funny, and he's just a great character. And I did hear a rumor once, a couple of years ago, that they were looking at potentially trying to do a Lobo film. But I can't really figure out how they would do Lobo because he's just so huge as a character.
I think they would end up going down what they did with the Hulk and actually just...
They'd have to CGI him, which would be kind of like, But, I mean, for a voice for Lobo, I could see like the one that played Negan in The Walking Dead, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, for a voice.
I didn't like The Walking Dead. It's a zombie one. There's only very few zombie ones that I like.
Yeah.
I like The Evil Dead as in Bruce Campbell, and that's only because it's a Bruce Campbell movie, so it's usually tongue-in-cheek.
Bruce Campbell is a legend. He's brilliant.
Bubba Hotep. There's a nice zombie movie.
Yeah. Do you know, I haven't seen Bubba Hotep yet.
You're talking about an aged Elvis,
Shameful.
a black JFK
Shameful,
fighting Egyptian mummies in a care home.
I know, shame on me. I haven't seen that, and I love Bruce Campbell films.
Aye, he plays Elvis, and he's really good at it. As an aged Elvis.
Yeah, he's a natural for that. Yeah, I remember him as Autolycus in Xena as well. I loved that. We have that series here.
Yeah,
I
enjoyed watching that as well, I must admit. And all the things people say, that you could see this and you could.
Doesn't matter. It was just
only that you only see it now. Somebody's pointed it out. When you're watching a program, if it's not obvious, then they're not deliberately putting it there.
Exactly. I love it. And I just think it's great fun. And Bruce Campbell just steals every scene that he's in, basically.
Yeah. And the other one I liked was, I keep on going to say Jester, but it's not as Jock. It was Rami. No, Sam. One of the Rami brothers. He played in it. He always played like the wee weakling. Oh, well, I can't remember. And Xena, he was. So you get Sam and what's the other one called? Come on, chat. You know.
Sam and Ted Raimi.
Ted. It's Ted. He's the small, skinny one. He was in Xena. Whoa. I think we've just, Wendy, that's just got kicked. Maybe thinking about Burn Notice or what? Bruce Campbell's in Burn Notice, But we've seemed to have lost Wend, and I think maybe it could be StreamYards has just kicked her out. So they're frozen again. They're going to come back. There you go.
And they're back.
We got kicked out then.
Yeah, we got completely kicked out.
Yeah. So in Xena, can you remember the one that was Ted Rami played in it?
Joxer,
that's it. I did say Joker or something like that. I nearly got the name.
Joxer, the mighty.
Joxer.
Yes. Love Joxer.
Do you know what comic book character I would love to actually them do? Rojaws and Hammerstein.
I'm not familiar with them. I'm a little bit sort of dated on my.
Johnny Alpha is accordingly going to get made into one. This is the old Star-Lord. 2000 AD. 2000 AD bought over Star-Lord so they could get in. That's where they got the Johnny Alpha, and they got the ABC Warriors, which is Rojaws and Hammerstein.
Very good.
So they did, but I read Star-Lord before I read 2000 AD. So I was. And when they took it over, the two names, it was 2000 AD and Star-Lord. Next year it was 2000 AD and Star-Lord. Next year it was 2000 AD and Star-Lord. Next year it was 2000 AD. The Star-Lord. It's basically, they obviously bought over and it was joint, and then it just, the Star-Lord name gets smaller and smaller and smaller and disappeared, which I always found funny. Right. Xena killed Joxer in an episode. It could have happened, but it's been a while since I've watched the full Xena again. I like the early stuff. I like Kevin Sorbo and his Hercules as well. I love Andromeda. A lot of people give that a lot of hate. The last season wasn't great, but I just
I didn't quite get into that. No shade on it, because I haven't really watched it enough to really be able to critique it. But I just didn't. I dipped into it, but I was just like, it just didn't grab me. I liked Kevin Sorbo in Hercules, obviously, but I found myself Xena than Hercules as far as like the two shows I've seen. I mean, I own the Xena series, but I wouldn't go out and buy the Hercules series.
See, I've got both of them.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't watch the Hercules. I did enjoy those episodes, but I wouldn't go back and watch those like I would with the Xena.
I must admit the Xena ones I enjoyed, but I enjoyed the crossovers. Yeah, and I did like the Hercules, the Legends, slightly more than I did like Xena, but the later Xena I think were far superior to than the later Hercules.
Yeah,
so the early stuff I prefer the Hercules, the later stuff. I prefer the Xena one. I think it was just the story was just a bit better because there's limited to what they could do, but they can get away with certain things that they couldn't do with two guys that they could do with two women, and helps bring it out a bit better. Because you can't imagine the two of them sitting down and talking to each other, whereas two women you can imagine them just sitting down and talking to each other. So it allowed more character development, which allowed better aspects of it. Whereas you couldn't imagine Hercules and I hate it when names just disappear. Blonde guy.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying. Honest to God, I
can't remember. I think they were limited to what they could do in that. Yeah, I think they were limited to what they could do in that. Anywho, that's us at 3:10, and I don't want to take the chance that it actually goes bang again.
No, I agree.
No. So
I think we've killed it tonight. We've definitely.
Season 11. Favorite episode, least favorite episode, and overall rating. Go on, you go.
Right. For me, favorite episode, Office Rimmer. I was crying watching that. Overall season, very good. I really enjoyed this whole season. Least favorite episode, probably Can of Worms. What about you?
For me, it's a tough choice. Officer Rimmer or Crisis for best favorite episode, and the second one, what's the pronunciation? Yes, Samsara. I think that's possibly the least. That's the least favorite. And overall, the series, I said, is definitely a big step up from the previous couple, and it's getting more back into what you expect of Red Dwarf.
Yeah,
and I think you're right. It is definitely a big step up from season 10. It is definitely climbing back up there. I think it's still got some problems. As I said, some of the times I think it felt as if it was a slow build-up, too slow a build-up, and then the ending was just too quick of an ending in a few of these episodes. But saying that, it was definitely, and I'll be tropish again, back in the red. I keep saying that because yes, they had a whole 3 episodes called Back in the Red, but this is definitely back in the red properly, where they've got everything. The only thing it's missing is Holly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah. My favourite episode is Crisis, and I found it funny just because I had gone through my midlife crisis and I thought it was superb. Yes, I can understand a lot of it. So yes, but
I can relate to us watching it.
Samsara probably my least favourite, but it had some of the quite funny takes, one-liners in it, like the typical cat foot and eye disease, or the Colby centaur half man full of bull, things like that. It kind of take too much away from it, but definitely probably my least favourite. The one I actually, believe it or not, is my least memorable one is Give and Take. There's bits and pieces in it, it stick out like a sore thumb, and it's memorable, but there's other parts of it I'm sitting there thinking, what was that about? And I have to really think what it was about, because yes, we know about the deleting, and we know that it deleted the Crichton, the Rimmer and the Captain Bollocks. Just other aspects of it. There's other parts of it I'm sitting there thinking, what was the story about? I've got it written down, but I still can't remember the main story aspect of it. So, although Samsara is memorable, that I didn't like it as much as the rest, Give and Take is so forgettable, which is unfortunately. I'm trying to remember what Give and Take was about.
Give and Take was
kidneys.
The kidneys.
Occupation with his deranged droid. Lister has his kidneys
Snacky.
Yeah.
Snacky and
I took my
I'm
list
going
off
to see
the screen.
Autolycus now. Phoebus.
I took my notes off the screen now, but
Yeah.
I haven't met there before.
Phoebus,
whatever the hell his name was. Asclepius.
Asclepius. I nearly got there. I sort of remembered because I took my stuff off the screen as well. But usually when I take my stuff off the screen, I don't save it. Which is bad. I'll need to start remembering to hit the save button.
I have to say that Asclepius deranged robot thing was scary.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think it was maybe because now I think about it, it had a nice tight loop, makes it a bit better than Samsara. But it unfortunately, unless it's things like, as soon as you said it's the medical droid and I remembered Snacky, see if I'd remembered Snacky, it would have actually slotted in there. And it's because certain things make it memorable. Forgot Snacky. It's because I forgot Snacky. I completely forgot what it was all about. But Samsara is definitely the worst for me. But even at that, is the worst I would still say maybe 4 out of 10. So slightly below average, but not unwatchable.
Exactly. Yeah, there's been much worse. Much worse.
Yeah. We could go back to Earth if we want to see worse. Yeah, I mean, but well, first 2 episodes of Back to Earth Part 3, I think, with the Blade Runner theme running through it, I thought was a lot better. But that's a different thing. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us. Yeah, it's another fantastic.
Always a pleasure. And we'll see you on Saturday for the Tiki Talk.
Yeah, got some good candidates too.
Mm-hmm. Remember, I was talking about Dr. What? It's not. It's Dr.
WTF. Yeah. That's current Who, isn't it?
It is very current Who. So, but it is a piss take.
Yeah, it's like the current Who.
But at least they've got a better logo.
Yes.
Yeah, they actually do. Yeah.
The classic.
And the artwork in it is actually really good. You know what I mean? Look at some of the artwork. Yeah, I mean, look at that Cyberman.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty cool,
isn't it? But it is a bit of a Mickey take on the current stuff, and that's what I liked about it because
that's fair enough.
Well, that's kind of a recommendation, isn't it?
But they've got some really cool artwork in it as well. That certainly got it. Where is it? That one. Look at that one.
Yeah.
Yes, really.
That's
slick
superb.
artwork.
Very nice.
The artwork is really cool in it, but even when they're doing a close up and they're actually taking the Mickey, you look at that compared to the artwork and some of the animation out there nowadays.
Yes, pretty scarily bad. Yeah.
And they have older Doctors in it as well. So they have, and that's basically, I just like the way they've actually played with this one. So I did. So this is actually on my shelf because I'm actually rereading it. It's a bit of everything. So it is. It's got a wee bit of horror in it. It's got a bit of taking the Mickey.
Oh, cool.
It's even got a feline.
Oh, that's cute.
Feline, yeah.
I miss my horror comics. You just made me think of them. I grew up reading Eerie.
Well, do you see the ones
oh my god, I wish I still
the ones that I got from Sentinel
Frank
Comics?
Frazetta's artwork. Oh my god, those were amazing comics.
I've got them. I've got to do a review of them in a while. It's basically, I've got the first 7. So I have Sentinel Comics, and they are sci-fi, fantasy, horror comics. Got them on It's a Sentinel. He was on my. He did one of my first Red Dwarf Sentinel comics in Problem Being. Were on my first one, and that's his comics. So once I've read them, I'm going to read them next month. I've got 7 to read, and then we're going to do a review of these comics. So, but
cool. Yeah,
they are some of them. Basically, they're no specific numbers, but there's 7 of them, and I'm going to actually go through them next month. But I've got Red Dwarf books to do first. And then, so that's my next 5 weeks after Red Dwarf finishes. 2 more seasons. So I've got Sadako doing next week, and the week after that, try and get everybody on, and we can do a Promised Land.
That'll be brilliant.
Panel.
Yeah, I think a panel will be fab.
Yeah, and then we can all have fun.
I think that'll be a smasher.
Talking cats.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. And thank you very much, ladies and gents, for joining us. And hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. But I know you all have. Because I'm up to 80 now. Not that I'm counting, but I'm up to 80. 20 more and I'm going to do a giveaway. Talings of Wen Chiang. I'm going to do a review of that at the same time. I love Talings of Wen Chiang. It's corny fun.
That's one of our favourites.
Yeah.
It's corny fun. It's the rat in it is hilariously bad, but still.
But it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
It's one of my favourites when I was growing up because it even then I saw it basically the first time round, and I just thought, wow, I just loved it. So I've always liked that. It's been one of my favourites.
Yeah, the rat didn't quite work. The rest of it
didn't quite work. It's almost as bad as the dinosaurs. They did the Percy.
Or what about from the Key to Time series? The critter in where they had to hide in the tunnel and Ramona got attacked by the Shrivenzal. That was like really bad, but I still love that episode.
And the Darren Wood Beast.
Yeah. They did the Macra as well, the early one. It basically was just, you look even the very first appearance of the Daleks, it was just a plunger. That was the first appearance of the Daleks. You just see it coming on and Barbara just going, and it was just the plunger coming towards her.
But it's her reaction told it.
That's exactly what it was. But it's just some of the classic monsters were neither classic or monsters. They were, but it's all suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
If you're willing to suspend your disbelief, you can enjoy anything.
Exactly, and you want to enjoy it, and that's the difference.
But Talons, you look at this production. I mean, it's up there with any BBC, historical drama. It's just so well done. The atmosphere, the foggy streets. It's got all that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's basically. So that's going to be once I reach 100 subscribers, I'm going to do a couple of streams, and then there's going to be a giveaway.
And
we'll have to get
how about them in the near future? I think is the Troughton stories going to be released as an animation. Chat about things like that.
Bye.
Oh, we got loads. There he is. Still remember him in The Omen.
Oh my giddy
getting
arms!
The old spike through the torso from
or
Devil Child.
Is it Jason in the Argonauts, or was it like maybe where the harpies pick them?
Oh yeah, right.
But yes, definitely that's for the future plans. I've got too many things on, not enough time. But
I know the feeling.
So next week, season 12 with Sadako. Week afterwards, season 13 with all of you, yourself, Darren, Wendy, and Sadako, and maybe even Problem back to discuss. But it doesn't know because he's actually always busy. He's a busy man.
He certainly is. Yeah. But it'd be great if you can get everybody back together.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
definitely.
Yeah.
But I'll see you on Saturday for the Let's Talk Geeky.
Okay.
Okay, PJ.
Until then, ladies and gents, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll catch you all later. And remember, I'm not old, I'm classic. PJ may be out.
Right. Ta-ra.